In my past life, Qin Yangchuan and I were in danger together, falling off a cliff and spending a night alone as a man and a woman, which bound us together for life. Because he married me, his past love with Princess Jing'an could not continue, and he could only watch helplessly as she was sent far away for a political marriage. He hated me for 10 years and neglected me for 10 years. After being reborn, the first thing he did was leave me behind and rush to his beloved. I resolutely turned and walked the opposite way from him. 10 wasted years. I should have done this long ago. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Amidst the flashing blades, the moment Qin Yangchuan abandoned me to go to Xiao Jing'an, I knew he had also been reborn, in our past life. Qin Yangchuan stood outside the screen and coldly informed me he would take Princess Jing'an, who had just returned from her annulment with the Western Rong, as his second wife. I lay ill in bed, yet he showed no concern, no inquiry, not even a single step into my chamber. Such undisguised neglect I endured for 10 years. This ill-fated bond all began on this very day. On this day in my past life, as was customary, the emperor led the royal family, court officials, and their families to the hunting grounds 50 miles outside the capital for the spring hunt. Who would have thought that Weichang County, this imperial retreat, would harbor a traitor? A key figure had rebelled, turning it into a gathering place for remnants of the previous dynasty. The rebels were stirring trouble, plotting an assassination. During the spring hunt, while the younger generation of various families entered the hunting grounds to pursue game, the emperor found himself surrounded by rebels. To prevent the participants from returning to offer support, the rebels split their forces, sending one group deep into the forest to ambush and kill them. In my past life, I traveled with Xiao Jing'an and Qin Yangchuan, only to be hunted down by assassins. As the princess's study companion, the royal guards only focused on covering the princess's escape, leaving me forgotten in place. It was Qin Yangchuan who pulled me along, fleeing separately from the princess. Later, when all of Qin Yangchuan's guards had perished, he and I ran down a dead-end path that led to a cliff's edge, with raging rapids below. To survive, Qin Yangchuan and I leaped off the cliff together into the waters below. In my past life, I couldn't swim and nearly drowned, only surviving because Qin Yangchuan pulled me ashore. Yet because of this, Qin Yangchuan accidentally collided with a massive rock in the water and suffered severe injuries. Once ashore, his back was soaked in blood, and he fell unconscious. It was then my turn to carry his wounded body as I found a cave for us to take shelter. At night, Qin Yangchuan lost too much blood and ran a high fever. I took care of him until midnight, but exhaustion overcame me, and I unknowingly fell asleep. At daybreak, the people sent by the emperor found us, just in time to catch us in disheveled clothing. Later, the incident spread, and to silence the gossip, the emperor issued an edict ordering our marriage. I was overjoyed, but failed to notice the dim look in Qin Yangchuan's eyes when he received the imperial decree, his gaze fixed on Princess Jing'an. Now that he's been given a second chance, he abandoned me and left. With the Qin family's guards naturally following him, the two sides became locked in combat. Taking advantage of the chaos, I picked up a sword from the ground and turned to run deep into the woods. From what I remember, these rebels were acting in separate groups. Once the rebels near the emperor's side were subdued, they wouldn't have much time left. 2 people were chasing after me from behind. I was no match for them, so I could only muster all my strength and flee through the forest. The dense bamboo grove blocked the sunlight, making it hard to see clearly. With my pursuers close behind, I focused solely on running for my life, having just been reborn. It would be the greatest joke of all if I were to die here immediately. While fleeing, the sounds of fighting reached my ears, and I changed direction, running toward the source of the noise. In the open space bordering the forest, a man in riding attire was surrounded by 4 guards, well protected, while ahead, his guards were engaged in combat with rebels, already gaining the upper hand. It's the Crown Prince. This group of rebels was originally nothing to fear. With the royal guards protecting him, they couldn't harm the Crown Prince in the slightest. Yet in my past life, the Crown Prince had died in this very rebellion. From my vantage point, I clearly saw the guards surrounding the man draw their daggers, aiming directly at the Crown Prince ahead. Horrified, without a moment's hesitation, I thrust my own blade forward. Hearing the commotion, the Crown Prince turned around and saw his own guard pointing a dagger at him. While a blade was being thrust into the guard's back from behind, in the previous life, the Hunting Grounds Rebellion had claimed many lives. The most significant impact, however, was on the Crown Prince. After the prince's death, the entire nation mourned. And the emperor never appointed another crown prince thereafter. For the next 10 years, the 4 princes vied for the throne, and court disputes never ceased, Your Highness. News of the disturbance arrived. The royal guards on the other side had dealt with the rebels and were now gathering around. I pulled out the blade, and blood spilled across the ground. The traitor's dagger fell to the floor with a sharp clatter. I raised my head to meet a pair of eyes, then calmly knelt to explain, Your Highness the Crown Prince. This humble subject was being pursued by assassins when I arrived here and witnessed this man attempting to betray his master by stabbing you from behind. The dagger in his hand is the evidence. The Crown Prince narrowed his eyes. You are, this humble subject is Shiha, daughter of Vice Minister Jiang. The 2 men who had been chasing me earlier caught up, their footsteps hurried, but upon seeing the crowd here, they seemed to hesitate, as if considering retreat. Yet, how could rebels hope to escape unscathed under the Crown Prince's very nose? Capture them alive. At the Crown Prince's command, moments later, one was killed, and the other had his tendons severed and his jaw dislocated. The matter settled. Before I could even catch my breath, I heard the Crown Prince call my name. Clad in brocade robes, his jade-like face carried an unfathomable depth. Miss Jiang, in that case, you are now my life-saving benefactor. It is but a subject's and a daughter's duty to serve. This humble subject dare not speak of gratitude. I kowtowed. Rather, it is I who must thank Your Highness the Crown Prince for your grace. Had it not been for you, I would have perished beneath their swords and become a wandering ghost. The Crown Prince chuckled softly and raised his hand to support my arm in a symbolic gesture. Get up. Returning to the tent, exhaustion from my narrow escape overwhelmed me, and I fell into a deep sleep the moment my head touched the pillow. When I woke again, it was already the next day. As the maidservant helped me wash up, she gossiped in a low voice, Young Miss, the princess and young Master Qin went missing yesterday. They were found this morning, spent the whole night alone together at the bottom of a cliff. I washed my hands, expressionless. Don't speak carelessly of the princess's affairs. This is the royal hunting grounds. If someone overhears, you'll be in for a world of trouble. The maid reluctantly fell silent. After returning to camp yesterday, when the emperor asked me, the princess's study companion, where the princess was, I could only reply that I had been separated from her during the pursuit. The emperor flew into a terrible rage. My father also repeatedly begged for forgiveness. In the end, it was the Crown Prince who stepped in, recounting how I had been pursued by 2 rebels alone and nearly lost my life, which finally made the emperor drop the matter. After freshening up and dressing, I stepped out of the tent to find the young ladies gathered at the hunting grounds, chatting about Xiao Jing'an and Qin Yangchuan. Overnight, the matter had spread far and wide. Understandable after yesterday's life-and-death ordeal, today's gossip served as a welcome distraction. In my past life, it was Qin Yangchuan and I at the center of such rumors. This time, the roles had shifted to him and Xiao Jing'an. Qin Yangchuan had also been reborn once. He couldn't possibly be unaware of what would happen if he and Xiao Jing'an fell off the cliff together, yet he still chose to do it, simply because he was desperate to bind himself to the princess. Was it to relieve the lovesickness of his past life, or to help his beloved escape the fate of a political marriage? Perhaps both. But with such methods, women inevitably face more criticism than men. Moreover, the princess now has another love in her heart. Lost in these thoughts, she overheard the girls nearby begin discussing yesterday's events. Yesterday, someone who hadn't joined the hunt stayed with the emperor and witnessed a heart-stopping scene, which they were now vividly recounting. Yesterday, when the rebels surrounded us, we thought we were doomed. Many ministers began writing their wills, but thankfully, reinforcements arrived in time. The Prince of Yang's heir led the charge, single-handedly slaying the rebel leader. With just 100 elite troops, he quelled the rebellion. Truly, the Shadow Guards live up to their formidable reputation. The Crown Prince of Yang truly lives up to being a tiger's son of a military family. No wonder even she fell for him. But with this incident now, I'm afraid it's impossible. Princess Jing'an's infatuation with the Crown Prince of Yang was hardly a secret among noble circles. The chatter around me suddenly ceased, the young ladies falling silent as if holding their breath. I looked up to see the princess's matron approaching me. Miss Jiang, the princess requests your presence. The young ladies who had been gossiping nearby turned pale with shock, whispering among themselves to ask when I had sat down here. As the princess's study companion, they were naturally flustered to have their private discussions about her overheard by me. I had been selected as the princess's study companion since childhood, entered the palace at 12, and since then had seen little of my family, living in the palace. Though called a study companion, I was merely an attendant at the princess's side. In his previous life, Qin Yangchuan adored the princess, but her heart belonged to the heir of Prince Yang. As the study companion of the third prince, who was the princess's full-blooded elder brother, Qin Yangchuan used this connection to frequently approach her. The princess found Qin Yangchuan utterly tiresome, and whenever they were left alone, she would drag me along. This hunting trip was no exception. I didn't want to encounter rebellion, but by a twist of fate, it paired me up with Qin Yangchuan, although the princess didn't like Qin Yangchuan. Seeing me, her follower, paired with someone who had always admired her made her feel stifled. Eventually, she distanced herself from both me and Qin Yangchuan altogether. In my past life, I was a bit dense and failed to notice the love-hate relationship between these two. After this incident, the emperor arranged my marriage, and I peacefully accepted my fate. After the wedding, Qin Yangchuan treated me with indifference, but I didn't mind, constantly offering warmth despite his coldness. Until news came of the princess's political marriage. When Qin Yangchuan drank himself into a stupor in his study, I entered to care for him, only to find him grieving silently before the princess's portrait. Memories of the past surfaced in my mind, and only then did I realize his affection had been for the princess. For the next 10 years, the couple lived in cold indifference and resentment, a clearly mismatched pair, bound by mutual bitterness, led by the matron. I entered the princess's tent with concern written on my face. Has Her Highness recovered somewhat now? Much better. Xiao Jing'an cleared his throat and sat up. It's all thanks to Qin Yangchuan risking his life to save me. A single sentence made my eyes freeze in place, suppressing the astonishment in my gaze. I poured a cup of tea and handed it over. It's good that your highness is unharmed. As a princess of noble birth, it's only natural for your subjects to protect you. One shouldn't put it that way. Xiao Jing'an took the teacup with a faint smile on her lips. At the bottom of the cliff, Qin Yangchuan saved me, covered in wounds. When I developed a fever, he still managed to stay awake and took care of me all night. He's always had feelings for me, I never noticed before. But going through life and death together has made me reconsider. Xiao Jing'an had also been reborn. As I stepped out of the princess's tent, this thought surfaced in my mind. Xiao Jing'an's behavior was vastly different from what I had known of her in my past life. Those eyes also concealed a profound sense of worldly experience and restraint. Xiao Jing'an asked again, I also heard that you saved the crown prince, my elder brother. I recounted the events of saving the crown prince and summed it up in one sentence. It was just a coincidence. In her previous life, after the crown prince's death, 4 princes fought for the throne. The ultimate victor was her full-blooded elder brother, the third prince. The princess summoned me here, most likely, to test me. The rebellion in Weichang County was quelled, and to prevent further unrest, the emperor ordered an immediate return to the capital. Within just 2 or 3 days, they had arrived back in the capital. The city was thoroughly investigated once more, leaving everyone in a state of apprehension for a time. Once the crisis had passed, the emperor held a banquet to reward those who had distinguished themselves. The crown prince has sent me an invitation. His Highness said that since you saved his life, you must attend no matter what. These words dispelled all my doubts. After grooming and dressing, I set off for the banquet with peace of mind. At the banquet discussing merits. Naturally the highest honors went to Crown Prince Xiao Hongguang of Yang. The emperor appointed him as the capital guard commander and also assigned him a position in the Ministry of War. Gold, silver, and treasures were bestowed without restraint. The lengthy list took a senior eunuch nearly the time of an incense stick to recite. The imperial guards and members of the shadow guard were also rewarded in several rounds. Then it was Qin Yangchuan's turn. Having risked his life to protect the princess this time, amidst the swirling rumors outside, the emperor rewarded him with gold and treasures before bestowing a marriage upon the two. When the imperial decree was read aloud, Qin Yangchuan and Xiao Jing'an exchanged a glance, their eyes brimming with affection. This romance of theirs could be considered as having spared them a decade of detours. Where is the second miss of the Jiang family? I was called upon and stepped forward to perform a grand bow. Your humble servant greets your majesty. You saved the crown prince's life. We hereby confer upon you the title of county princess, along with a reward of 100 taels of gold. I expressed my gratitude, returning to my seat. The crown prince nodded at me with a faint smile before turning away. Thus, the debt was settled. From now on, I could no longer use the life-saving favor as leverage against the crown prince. But getting a reward is already quite good. It's just that the fief is a bit far from the capital, up north in Yangzhou. As I was pondering, Xiao Jing'an suddenly spoke up. Father, as you know, Shiha has been by my side in the palace since she was 12, 5 years now. The mourning period delayed things for a year, and we can't afford further delays. Her saving crown prince brother is no small matter. Father, why not arrange a marriage for her? My fingers paused. After all, Qin Yangchuan and I had been married for 10 years in our past life. The princess must be feeling uneasy. The emperor pondered for a moment. How about assigning her as your crown prince brother's concubine? At these words, the crown prince's expression darkened. As the crown prince, he was about to select his consort. Though the selection was still ongoing, I was not among his considerations. The emperor continued on his own. It so happens that during this hunting expedition, she saved the crown prince. I quickly bowed and said, Your Majesty, Shiha dares not claim undue merit. To receive the title of county princess is already a great fortune for Shiha. Xiao Jing'an also smoothed things over. This daughter would not dare to influence the crown prince's marital affairs. It was merely witnessing so many outstanding young talents at the event today that moved me to speak. These words drew the emperor's gaze to the group of people who had rescued him in the hunting grounds. Among them were the heir of Prince Yang, the heir of Marquis Huayang, and the third son of the Luo family, all outstanding young talents of the highest caliber. Noticing the emperor's intent, the heir of Prince Yang remained expressionless. The heir of Count Huayang lowered his head in silence, while the third young master of the Luo family glanced at me with a faint, enigmatic smile. Xiao Jing'an asked, Shiha, what do you think? Her tone and expression made it seem as though today's meritorious officials were all mine for the choosing. As the princess's study companion, her manner might lead others to think I had begged this favor from Her Highness. Many thanks for your Highness's kindness. I responded with neither humility nor arrogance. However, it has been a year since I last returned home. My parents have likely already begun making arrangements for Shiha. As their daughter, I dare not make decisions over their heads. I fear I must decline your Highness's generous offer. With the imminent union between the princess and young Master Qin, this humble subject finds it improper to remain in the palace. I only wish to leave the palace and reunite with my family, and I beg for your Majesty's gracious permission. The emperor waved his hand. Granted. Thank you, your Majesty. I breathed a sigh of relief. The current emperor placed the highest importance on filial piety. He was never particularly enthusiastic about the arranged marriage in the first place. Though the princess showed kind intentions, she couldn't override the authority of my elders. The banquet finally ended, and I dashed away swiftly. I couldn't bear staying in this palace for another moment. I took my leave from Xiao Jing'an. It makes me a little sad that Shiha is leaving so soon, with the princess preparing for marriage. It's no longer appropriate for Shiha to stay in the palace. I bowed slightly. May the princess and young Master Qin enjoy eternal harmony. I will. Xiao Jing'an stared at me. You should also hurry and find yourself a suitable husband. Stepping out of the princess's palace, I rubbed my arm and felt goosebumps all over my skin. In my past life, I never knew what Xiao Jing'an had endured in Shirong, but her temperament had become increasingly unpredictable. Now she has set her sights on my marriage. Memories from my past life flooded my mind as I lost myself in thought. Suddenly, the carriage jolted and came to an abrupt halt. I lifted the curtain and asked the coachman, "What's going on?" The coachman got down and fiddled with the wheel for a long while before finally looking distressed. "My lady, the carriage is broken." Broken? I lifted the curtain and looked left and right, not long after leaving the palace. The area we had reached was not a bustling market but rather an open and desolate place, with hardly anyone in sight. The coachman suggested, "My lady, we've just left the palace, and the carriage can't go any further. Perhaps we should return to the palace for now, rest for the night, and once the carriage is repaired, it won't be too late to continue our journey." I stepped down from the carriage and turned to stare at the wheel. Is it really beyond repair? Indeed, if it could still move. The coachman's words were cut short as the sound of dragging chains suddenly echoed through the air. Through the evening mist, a grand procession emerged from the direction of the imperial palace. Between the horses and men, two carriages advanced slowly. Judging by their ornate decorations, they didn't appear to be from the palace. "County princess, it's the heir of Prince Yang. We should yield the way first." I stood rooted to the spot, watching as the approaching entourage drew nearer to the carriage blocking the road's center. Then stepped forward to meet them. The leader reined in his horse, bringing the entire procession to a halt. County Princess Shiha. The leader had also been at the palace banquet earlier and, by the fading evening light, had recognized me. Deputy General Zhong. "The palace carriage is in disrepair from years of neglect. I left the palace but got stranded here. Might I trouble you for a ride?" Deputy General Zhong hesitated for a moment. I'll have to ask the young master first. And the young master would most likely refuse. I gave a slight nod, much obliged. I watched as Deputy General Zhong dismounted and approached the carriage at the rear, exchanging some words. Sensing a sharp gaze fixed upon me, I maintained my composure and saw Deputy General Zhong approach, clasping his hands in salute. The young master says, "It's permitted." No sooner had he finished speaking than the person inside the carriage behind him stepped out. The newcomer was clad in dark robes. With prominent brow bones, a high-bridged nose, and sharp facial contours, his pitch-black eyes resembled a chilling blade, exuding an icy aura. "Thank you, Prince Xiao," I curtsied slightly. Xiao Hongguang gave a slight nod, stepped aside, and mounted his horse. He had actually yielded his own carriage. Deputy General Zhong raised his hand. "County Princess, please." I looked at the coachman still standing in place. "Take the carriage back to the palace, since the heir apparent is escorting me. There's no need for you to make the trip." The coachman hesitated for a long moment before finally yielding the way. By the time we reached the Jiang family's gate, it was already evening. After alighting from the carriage, I stood before the Jiang residence and expressed my thanks once more. Xiao Hongguang said nothing in response, merely giving a slight nod before driving his horse away. The convoy behind followed all the way. And only then did I notice there was another carriage at the rear. As it passed me, someone inside lifted the curtain. The handsome face of the third young master of the Luo family, Luo Shenju, was revealed, still wearing that faintly mocking smile. "County Princess Shihe, what a clever tactic of advancing by retreating." I smiled and curtsied. "Take care on your way, young Master Luo." Returning to the Jiang residence, my family showered me with concern. Grandmother chided me. "Why did you come back tonight? Just now, the chief eunuch came to announce the imperial decree granting you the title of county lady, and mentioned sending a letter to inquire when you'd return so we could prepare a proper welcome." Mother chimed in from the side. "I've already had the servants prepare some food in haste. If you're hungry, have something to eat first." She placed a plate of pastries in front of me as she spoke. I smiled and said I wasn't hungry. Then finally spoke up to explain. "His Majesty has arranged a marriage between the princess and the eldest son of the Qin family. With the princess preparing for her wedding, it's no longer appropriate for me to stay in the palace. Besides, I haven't seen you all in so long, that's why I was in such a hurry to come home." Father listened nearby, his perpetually furrowed brows drawing even tighter together. "Wouldn't it be too rash to leave the palace like this? Have you bid farewell to Her Majesty the Queen and the Empress Dowager?" I replied. "I went, but both their highnesses were too busy to receive me, so I had the palace attendants relay my farewell." "How can this be? If they were unavailable today, there's always tomorrow. Why must you be in such a hurry to return?" "Enough," Grandmother interjected. "The child has just returned home. Don't bring your official court manners back with you," Father said. "Shihe serves as a study companion in the palace, representing the Jiang family's dignity. Every word and action must be flawless, otherwise, saved the crown prince, earned the title of county princess. Hasn't Shihe done enough to bring honor to the Jiang family?" Grandmother retorted bluntly. "If you want to lecture someone, go find your disciples." My father shook his head and left. My grandmother comforted me, saying, "Don't mind your father. He's just been an official for too long and finds fault with everything." I lowered my lashes and smiled faintly. In my past life, I rarely spent time with my family. Whenever I returned home, my father would nitpick my every action. I thought it was because he was overly cautious by nature, but in truth, he simply didn't like me nor my mother. The Jiang family descended from a renowned prime minister, but after 3 generations, their talents had waned and their mansion stood depleted. My mother came from a merchant family and brought a substantial dowry when she married into the Jiang household. She managed the estate diligently and spent generously to grease the wheels of officialdom, truly giving her all. I gripped my mother's cold hand, remembering the grief and confusion from my previous life when I received news of her death after my marriage. Within just a year, my father had elevated his concubine to the status of principal wife, and even schemed, while I lay seriously ill, to have my half-sister, who had just come of age, replace me as Qin Yanchuan's next wife. Later, when Xiao Jing'an returned to court after her divorce and news spread that Qin Yanchuan intended to marry her as an equal wife, my father finally abandoned his plans. But each of these incidents had long since chilled my heart. Thus, when my father summoned me the next day to inform me that he had arranged a match for me with one of his protégés, I was not the least bit surprised. The student's name was Wang Lang, born into a poor family but possessing exceptional talent, if nothing unexpected occurs, he will undoubtedly pass the imperial examinations with high honors and secure a prominent position in officialdom. Yet I recall from my past life that he married the daughter of a 7th-rank official in the capital, later, to climb the social ladder by attaching himself to the Grand Princess. He murdered his wife and fabricated a crime scene. This was brought before the emperor by his wife's family, creating a sensational scandal that rocked the entire capital. Father handed the portrait before me. I reached out to take it, but merely set it aside. Now that our daughter has been granted the title of county princess, she is no longer a suitable match for him. Father's face turned cold. Since when have you developed the habit of looking down on others because of your status? I looked at him. It's not that I think too highly of myself, but after 5 years of cautious service as the Crown Prince's study companion in the palace, and having saved the Crown Prince to earn this title, don't you think it would be wasteful to marry me off to someone of such low standing? Wang Lang is a man of great talent who will surely prove useful in the future. At your age, having been delayed by various matters. What other noble family could you possibly marry into? If you wed Wang Lang, with the Jiang family backing you, he would never dare to look down on you. In the ever-fluctuating world of officialdom, alliances between one or multiple families are the prevailing trend. Unfortunately, the Jiang family declined for 3 generations before rising again. Coming from humble origins, their influence remains unstable. Well-established families, wary that the Jiangs might be a flash in the pan, would not choose to form marital ties with them. The Jiang family could only secretly promote scholars from humble backgrounds to expand their influence. They even considered offering my own marriage as a gesture of their commitment. I said slowly, after all, he hasn't yet passed the imperial exams. Now that my daughter has been granted the title of county princess, why must we gamble her prime years on his uncertain future? On the other hand, 4th sister is of marriageable age. I think she would be a better match for Wang Lang. After leaving the study, my thoughts drifted back to my past life. 4th sister was the 2nd daughter of concubine Zhao, who was later elevated to the main wife. She was about to come of age. 10 years later, the one father wanted to push on to Qin Yangchuan as a stepmother was 5th sister, who was only 6 years old at the time. In my past life, 4th sister married the 2nd son of the capital governor's concubine-born line. Living in wealth and harmony, although Wang Lang placed 3rd in the imperial examinations the following year, becoming a 6th-rank official, he faced suppression and exclusion in court, with slim chances of promotion. Later, he strayed from the right path and became the favored companion of the Grand Princess. This was the match father had so carefully selected for me in this lifetime. Though one might not know their future character, what lies ahead is ultimately just a gamble. The bias in their heart knows no bounds. Earlier in the study, father indeed didn't agree. He merely scoffed. Who would have thought you harbored such ambitions? Do you aspire to marry a prince or noble? With your qualifications, you're likely to end up battered and bruised. This was tacit approval to temporarily not interfere with my marriage plans. I returned to my room and sat before the mirror, combing back the hair that fell across my forehead. When the princess was selecting her study companions, noble daughters from the capital scrambled over each other for the position, desperately showcasing their graceful manners, yet I deliberately swept my forehead hair back, adopting a timid and submissive demeanor that clearly appeared unfit for such an honorable position. As expected, the princess chose me. Princess Jing'an needed a study companion, someone to do her schoolwork for her, act as her attendant, and remain obedient and well-behaved. That was all she required. Before the selection, I noticed that all the attendants chosen to serve Princess Jing'an were of this type. Moreover, within the imperial palace, there were numerous young lords and nobles. Although boys and girls were taught separately, the imperial consorts remained wary, fearing potential romantic entanglements. Princess Jing'an also had an elder brother, the 3rd prince, born of the same mother. Her mother would undoubtedly insist on selecting a docile and compliant companion for her. From then on, I remained in this state. At the age of 15, when my grandfather was still alive, I had just come of age, the perfect time for marriage arrangements. I met several people at the palace, but none of them were particularly satisfied with me. That's why my father said that with my qualities, I was likely to end up battered and bruised. 7 days later, the eldest princess was hosting a flower viewing banquet, and an invitation was sent to the Jiang family. It was called a flower appreciation banquet, but in reality, it was an opportunity for the crown prince, under the pretext of the grand princess's name, to thoroughly assess the candidates for his future consort. In my previous life, The crown prince had already passed away by this time, plunging the entire nation into mourning, so naturally, such an event never took place. I dressed up carefully and accompanied my mother to the banquet as scheduled. At the banquet, after greeting the ladies and young misses from families friendly with the Jiangs, I followed my mother into the inner chamber to pay respects to the noble guests. In the inner chamber, the Grand Princess, Princess Jing'an, and several noble women were gathered together chatting. I greeted each of them in turn. This must be the second young lady of the Jiang family who once served as the princess's study companion. I heard she remains unmarried. The Marchioness of Huayang spoke up. My mother replied, Shihe was previously at the palace, and then observed a year of mourning for her grandfather. That's why it was delayed. We'll have to choose carefully. As the elders chatted, I stood quietly to the side. Xiao Jing'an had somehow moved next to me, his expression somewhat inquisitive. Shihe's attire today is quite novel. In the 5 years you've been by my side, this is the first time I've seen you dressed like this, the princess remarked. I gave a slight nod. After returning home, my mother taught me this. She said it's more dignified than before. Xiao Jing'an also smiled, but his eyes were somewhat cold. I heard that the other day, when your carriage broke down on your way out of the palace, it was the Prince of Yang's heir who escorted you back. How come I didn't know you were so familiar with the Prince of Yang's heir? Upon hearing this, I feigned surprise. Your Highness, now that you're engaged to the eldest son of the Qin family, surely you wouldn't still? Of course not, Xiao Jing'an flatly denied. This princess was merely curious. How did the Prince of Yang's heir agree to help you? The Prince of Yang's heir may appear cold-hearted, but in truth, he's quite willing to help others. As dusk was falling, a helpless woman pleaded for assistance. Even if it were a stranger, the heir would have lent a hand. Hearing my reply, Xiao Jing'an disdainfully averted her gaze. I suppose so. Having obtained a satisfactory answer, she no longer lingered with me and exited the inner chamber. My mother urged me to go out for a walk as well, so I stepped outside. What I had just said was merely to placate Xiao Jing'an. Although the first-generation Prince of Yang shared the imperial surname, he was not a blood relative but rather the adopted son of the founding emperor of the Lin Kingdom, renowned for his bravery and military prowess. Successive generations of his lineage guarded the northern frontier against the Di tribes. However, the current heir of the Yang Principality, Xiao Hongguang, was born with congenital weakness and required careful nurturing. Given the harsh northern climate, he and his mother had lived in the capital since childhood, frequently staying within the palace grounds. In her previous life, Xiao Jing'an first discovered love and set her sights on Xiao Hongguang. For years, she pursued him relentlessly, committing many absurd acts. When I served as her study companion, she was frequently punished because of this. After years of fruitlessly chasing Xiao Hongguang, she even went so far as to drug him. She believed that as a princess, and with Xiao Hongguang being the heir to the Prince of Yang, even if scandal occurred, the imperial family would cover it up rather than punish them, thus she could have her way. Upon learning of this matter, my heart was filled with terror. Once the princess committed such an act, all those around her, her maids, the matrons, and even I, whether aware or unaware, would be silenced. So I watched coldly as the princess gleefully administered the drug, but then, seizing a moment when the princess wasn't paying attention, I secretly sent Xiao Hongguang away. Before leaving, Xiao Hongguang gave me a deep look and left with these words, Jiang Shihe, I owe you a favor, I won't forget it. Later, the princess regained consciousness under the imperial physician's treatment. I only said that I had been knocked unconscious by Lord Xiao and lost awareness. The princess seethed with hatred, but was slapped by the empress, who rushed over upon learning of the incident. Only then did she quiet down. The princess's birth mother, consort Shu, pleaded for mercy, sparing her a beating. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief as well. That day, the carriage broke down just outside the palace gates, clearly a deliberate act to keep me within the palace walls, though I didn't know what scheme Xiao Jing'an had concocted to avoid further trouble. I sought help from Xiao Hongguang, who happened to pass by. As expected, there was no rejection. Following Xiao Jing'an out of the inner chamber, I saw in the courtyard how he approached Qin Yangchuan, their demeanor intimate. Qin Yangchuan smiled tenderly, tucking a stray lock of Xiao Jing'an's hair behind his ear. Standing beneath the covered walkway, I suddenly recalled my past life, searching through my memories, yet never finding him looking at me with such an expression. As if sensing something, Qin Yangchuan looked up and met my gaze. Pausing for a moment, I gave him a slight nod in acknowledgement before turning to walk toward the women's seating area. The crown prince has arrived. The fifth prince has arrived. The announcement at the door rang out, and all conversations in the courtyard ceased as people knelt to pay their respects. Greetings to His Highness the Crown Prince, greetings to the fifth prince. At the command of rise, everyone stood up. As I rose and lifted my head, I saw the Crown Prince and the fifth prince walking ahead, followed by the heirs of Prince Yang and Marquis Huayang. They arrived intending to first visit the eldest princess in the inner chamber. So I took a step back to make way. The four entered the inner chamber, while I stepped toward the rear garden. The flower viewing banquet hosted by the Grand Princess's estate featured an exotic and abundant variety of blossoms, a riot of colors that intertwined beautifully in one place. The rear garden was too vast, and after wandering for a while, my feet grew weary. I intended to return, but as I walked, I somehow found myself back where I had started. A light chuckle came from above. I looked up and met a face curled in a mocking smile. Has second Miss Jiang lost her way? Luo Shenju lazily spoke while reclining on a tree branch in the princess's rear garden. If you're lost, you could tell this young master. I might reluctantly show you the way out. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Luo. But it's unnecessary, I replied softly, noticing a maid approaching and preparing to walk over. Lady Jiang, I'll eventually tear off that mask of yours. My steps faltered briefly, but I ignored him and followed the maid out of the garden. Luo Shenju is the cousin of the Grand Princess and used to serve as the Crown Prince's study companion. I had no grudge against him, it was just that he couldn't stand me. Back when Princess Jing'an was selecting study companions, I went against my usual behavior, changed my appearance in private, and was caught by him. Another time, Princess Jing'an fell into the water while playing carelessly. I couldn't swim and couldn't save her, but fearing punishment for failing to watch over the princess, I jumped into the water as soon as I saw someone coming to rescue her, shouting that I would save the princess, nearly drowning myself in the process. When I was rescued, I was barely alive, and as expected, no one pursued the matter afterward. All of this was witnessed by Luo Shenju. He concluded that despite my young age, I was cunning and calculating, and from then on, he never showed me any kindness. After I was reborn, when Xiao Jing'an sought a marriage proposal for me, he also assumed it was my own initiative, and later, when I declined, he thought it was a strategic retreat. I asked Xiao Hongguang for help, which only reinforced his belief that I was scheming and calculating. But he's neither the emperor nor a prince, just an outsider. His dislike has no real impact on me. Not long after returning to the banquet, the Grand Princess commenced the feast. Many noble ladies stepped forward to perform and showcase their talents. With the Crown Prince present today and his imminent selection of consorts to determine both the Crown Princess and secondary consorts, this opportunity naturally could not be missed. I sipped on peach blossom wine as my mother whispered in my ear. Just now, Madame Luo asked me, what do you think of their third young master? I nearly choked on my wine, quickly covering my mouth to avoid making a scene. Mother lowered her voice further. That third young Master Luo is truly among the finest young talents. He recently distinguished himself in quelling the rebellion, but his temperament is rather flamboyant. His family finds him difficult to manage, so they wish to find him a gentle, quiet wife to temper his spirit. Mother, I prefer quiet too, let's forget about it, I replied in a low voice, only to hear a cold snort. It suddenly occurred to me that many military officers were attending this banquet, all with exceptional hearing. Mother sighed. Then we'll see. A few days ago, when Mother learned that Father intended to marry me off beneath our station, she couldn't accept it either. She quarreled with Father, who simply washed his hands of the matter and left it to her to arrange, bluntly stating that if things didn't go well in the future, the blame wouldn't fall on him. Mother was also holding back her anger, and today she intended to keep an eye out for me at the banquet. Though the Luo family held no low official rank, they were a military lineage, having no connection whatsoever to the civil official Jiang family. Moreover, Luo Shenju seemed ill-tempered at first glance. And as the cousin-nephew of the Grand Princess, if I were to suffer any grievances in the future, there would be nowhere to seek justice. Having no time to ponder how Luo Shenju might react upon hearing this, I calmly watched the song and dance performances, lost in thought. I suddenly heard the Grand Princess call me forward. I stepped forward and bowed, hearing the princess ask, "Are you the second daughter of the Jiang family who saved the Crown Prince some time ago?" Receiving an affirmative answer, the princess nodded slightly. "Do you possess any talents? This humble girl is somewhat versed in literature." The princess pondered for a moment, then compose a poem inspired by these peach blossoms. "Would you?" My heart tightened as I lowered my head in acknowledgement. The time it takes for an incense stick to burn passed, and my completed poem was presented before the princess. who then handed it to the crown prince beside her. The crown prince sat upright with an indifferent expression. The poem is mediocre, but the calligraphy is decent. I quickly lowered my head. The grand princess waved her hand, reward her with pearl flowers, then dismiss her. Noticing the crown prince's displeased expression, I breathed a sigh of relief. The crown prince, misunderstanding that I wished to become his consort after Xiao Jing'an had previously petitioned the emperor to arrange my marriage, had been giving me unfriendly looks. Returning to the banquet, another round of floral wine was served. The maids distributed the drinks to each guest's table when suddenly a soft exclamation came from the ladies' seating area, followed by the sound of a wine cup hitting the ground. "You." The young lady who had been splashed all over glared furiously at the maid. "This county princess's gown. This lowly servant deserves 10,000 deaths. Deserves 10,000 deaths. Please forgive this offense, county princess." The maidservant pouring wine hurriedly knelt down to wipe the clothes. The county princess seemed about to make trouble, but after glancing around, she finally relented and said in a low voice, "Hurry up and take me to change my clothes." "Yes, yes." As the two left the banquet, I watched their retreating figures and asked my mother, "Which county princess is that?" The mother replied, "The lady of Jiading County. Her father and brothers sacrificed themselves for the country, defending the northern border city to the death. When the news reached the capital, the entire family was honored. Now, she is the only one left in the household, the lady of Jiading County." As the maid pouring wine approached my side, I deliberately tripped her, spilling wine all over my sleeve. "My lady," I whispered, "no need to make a fuss, I'll go change." I quietly left the banquet and glanced toward the side door. As expected, I didn't see that person's figure among the male guests. And my brow twitched. "Go fetch my change of clothes for me. They're in the Jiang family's carriage at the back gate, marked with the character Jiang." The maid acknowledged and went to retrieve the garments. Watching the person leave, I frowned and began searching along the corridor. The western wing's resting area was quite large. After circling around several times, I still hadn't spotted anyone suspicious. Could I have been mistaken? I halted my steps when suddenly a shout reached my ears. "Who the hell are you? Get lost." I hurried over and saw the lady of Jiading County, now changed into fresh clothes, being cornered by a drunken man, her face pale with fright. Just as I thought, just as I was about to step forward, the sound of approaching footsteps came from behind. Turning sideways, I met a pair of familiar eyes. Xiao Hongguang. He was going to save the Princess of Jiading. I reached out and grabbed him, pulling him behind the rockery with unexpected strength. "Jiang Shihe." Facing his furrowed brow, I quickly said to him, "Lord Xiao, it's inconvenient for you to be here. I'll go." "You." The sound of tearing fabric came from the other side, and Xiao Hongguang's frown deepened. I added, "No matter what you hear, don't come out. Don't forget, you owe me a favor." With that, I turned and rushed out. Taking 3 steps in 2, pulling the hairpin from my head, I stabbed it fiercely into the man's back and shouted sharply, "Where did this scoundrel come from? Daring to assault a county princess personally ennobled by His Majesty, do you have a death wish? Fear not, county princess, I'm here to save you." In the time it took to slap that man a few times, I turned to address the Princess of Jiading. You. The Princess of Jiading looked left, then right, glancing at me before turning her gaze back to the man, her face alternating between pale and flushed. The drunken man, sobered by the slaps, turned and fled. He moved with astonishing speed, vanishing from sight in just a few strides. I turned to look at the county princess of Jiading. She had already straightened her clothes, but her face was deathly pale. The sound of footsteps approached before the person came into view. How could the heir apparent do such a thing? The newcomer froze at the sight before them. The county princess of Jiading trembled even more violently. The heir? I turned to look at the newcomer. What does this have to do with the heir? Outside, the banquet continued in full swing, while inside the chamber, the grand princess sat high on the dais, frowning at the commotion below. What on earth happened? I stepped forward and bowed, saying, "Your Highness, today the county princess and I had our clothes splashed with wine and came to change, but we saw the county princess being accosted by a drunken rogue, so I stepped in to help. However, as I am not skilled in martial arts, I accidentally let the scoundrel escape." Jiading. "You explain." I. The magistrate of Jiading County let out 2 sounds, then trembled all over, unable to speak. Luo Shenju asked, "What does this matter have to do with the heir? Why did I hear someone calling out his name?" I also looked surprised. This humble subject knows not. On my way here, I never saw the heir, nor was he present at the scene. It was only later when a crowd gathered that they kept insisting, as if the heir had done this. When the person was brought forward for questioning, they too pleaded for mercy, claiming it was a case of mistaken identity. The crown prince and Xiao Hongguang sat to the side, neither uttering a word. It must have been a misunderstanding. The grand princess rubbed her temples. This matter concerns a woman's reputation. It must not be spread, and no one is to discuss it further. Escort the lady of Jiading County back to her residence and have the imperial physician prepare some calming tonic for her. As the banquet ended, Luo Shenju brushed past me, for words clearly reaching my ears, glib tongue and artful smile. This time I didn't hold back. "Young Master Luo," I called out to him, and Luo Xuanzhou's figure froze. "You, an unrelated man, constantly finding fault with me all day, do you have feelings for me and want to catch my attention? You," Luo Shenju turned to glare at me, "are you even a woman? How can you be so shameless? Is young Master Luo even a man? People often speak of a gentleman's magnanimity, yet young Master Luo is petty and narrow-minded. Instead of concerning himself with affairs of state, he has time to nitpick at a sheltered woman like me," I sneered. "If young Master Luo wishes to avoid any unsavory rumors, I suggest you behave yourself." Taking in his ashen complexion, I rolled my eyes and turned to leave. A few days after the banquet ended, someone from the Linglong Pavilion came to deliver a set of hair ornaments. I opened the box to find an exquisite phoenix hairpin set crafted from pure gold. "When did the county princess order jewelry from the brilliant pavilion?" the maid asked. "A few days ago." I spoke nonsense. Then dismissed everyone from the room. Taking out the jewelry from the box, I indeed felt a hidden compartment inside. It contained a letter. It was sent by Xiao Hongguang. The next day, wearing a veil hat, I entered the largest opera house in the capital, led upstairs. I took my seat with folding screens placed on either side of me. No one was on the left, but to the right. I turned my head and saw a man's figure and the vague outline of his profile, Miss Jiang. The voice from behind the screen was cold and crisp. "I owe you another favor." Applause and cheers gradually rose as the play began in full swing on the stage below. "It's hardly a favor." I took a sip of tea, just wanted to spoil someone's well-laid plans. On the other end, Xiao Hongguang asked, "Then who are these some people?" I chuckled lightly. "Young master, you ask too bluntly without even exchanging pleasantries first. Should I exchange pleasantries about the 2 favors I owe you?" Xiao Hongguang toyed with his cup. "The first disaster you knew in advance, secretly sent me away. The second time, you again knew beforehand and warned me not to step forward. Was the mastermind behind these 2 incidents the same person?" I stared at the stage below and answered indifferently, "From the same root. No real difference. The first time was Princess Jing'an acting out of personal desire, while the second was a trap set by someone behind the scenes to weaken the crown prince's influence." Xiao Hongguang asked again, "What was the reason?" "Young master, if you wished to harm a man of high rank and power, wouldn't you first remove his claws and fangs, slay those by his side?" A thought struck me. Yet, there was once an even simpler method to take his life directly. A pity I stopped it, trading it for glory. Xiao Hongguang took a long moment before replying. "When the snipe and clam fight, the fisherman profits. What truly clever scheming. But why do you repeatedly risk yourself to help me?" Naturally, I couldn't bear to see cruel men succeed in their wicked schemes, bringing calamity to the country in the future. Or perhaps, I turned my head, it was to secure a place on your ship when the time comes to leave the capital. My fiefdom lies within the territory under the jurisdiction of the Prince of Yang. Of course, it's possible. Since we're grasshoppers tied to the same string, tell me, what else do you know? I looked at the paper laid out on the desk before me, picked up my brush, and wrote 4 characters while saying, "Now that they've alerted the enemy by beating the grass, they won't rashly strike the same person again." The 4 characters first martial, then civil appeared on the paper. I set down the brush and stood up, preparing to leave. "Come and see for yourself. In my past life, the crown prince was stabbed by a traitor at his side during the hunting grounds and died from his wounds. The rebellion by the remnants of the previous dynasty was real, but the crown prince actually died in a royal power struggle. Later, when the rebellion was quelled, the mastermind behind it was pinned on the remnants of the previous dynasty. It wasn't until after I married Qin Yangchuan that I learned the spy had been planted early on by the 3rd prince. Qin Yangchuan was the 3rd prince's study companion and deeply in love with Princess Jing'an, making him a staunch supporter of the 3rd prince's faction. Only by his side did I come to realize that the 3rd prince had long coveted the position of crown prince. Not only did he kill the crown prince, But he also thoroughly eradicated all former members of the Crown Prince's faction. Among the younger generation, there were 3 who had been steadfastly loyal to the Crown Prince: Xiao Hongguang, heir to the Prince of Yang, Luo Shenju of the Luo family, and Meng Huaning, heir to the Marquis of Huayang. In his previous life, although the Crown Prince died, these 3 men had all distinguished themselves in quelling the rebellion at the hunting grounds, becoming the talk of the town for a time. The 3rd prince tried to win them over, but none succeeded. As a result, all 3 were driven out of the imperial court by the 3rd prince using underhanded means. First, Xiao Hongguang, the heir of the Prince of Yang, intervened when the lady of Jiading County was being harassed, only to be falsely accused in return. The lady of Jiading County pointed the finger at him, claiming he was the lecherous offender, utterly ruining his reputation. Xiao Hongguang was reprimanded by the emperor and had no choice but to become engaged to the lady of Jiading County. Before the wedding, the county princess of Jiading was abducted, tortured, and killed. It was the work of Princess Jing'an, who was infatuated with Xiao Hongguang, but the blame was placed on Xiao Hongguang himself, who had refused to accept the marriage arrangement. The county princess's father and brothers had sacrificed their lives for the country, defending the border city to the death, yet they were treated so cruelly. Outrage spread throughout the court and the public, leading the emperor to strip Xiao Hongguang of his position and exile him back to the northern Di. Later, the Yangwang residence was found to possess letters of treason and collusion with the enemy, resulting in the entire family being sent into exile. Then there was Luo Shenju. The 3rd prince dealt with him in an even simpler manner. Luo Shenju was stabbed in the back by a subordinate during a bandit suppression operation, and it was publicly declared that he had been killed by the leader of the horse bandits. Lastly was Meng Huaning, the heir of Huayang Marquis. A man of considerable talent who aspired to make his mark in officialdom, he became embroiled in an imperial examination fraud case. Though spared his life, he was stripped of his heir status and thereafter drifted through life in a daze, never able to accomplish anything significant again. The 3rd prince is a man of extreme cunning and cruelty. In my past life, he exhausted every scheme for that throne. After the emperor's passing, he bribed the eunuch delivering the imperial decree. Upon learning the emperor had designated the 5th prince as successor, he altered the decree and ultimately seized the position. While bringing refreshments to Qin Yangchuan and the 3rd prince during their discussion in the study, I accidentally overheard this secret. When the 3rd prince discovered me, it was Qin Yangchuan who shielded me from harm. I could see the 3rd prince's sinister gaze, and I knew then that I wouldn't live much longer. Sure enough, from that day onward, my health began to decline day by day. Imperial physicians and doctors were all consulted, yet none could find anything wrong. Eventually, I became bedridden, too weak to even rise from my bed. When I was gravely ill, Qin Yangchuan informed me that Princess Jing'an had returned to court after their separation, and he intended to marry her as his equal wife. My heart suddenly understood. Princess Jing'an, a noble woman of imperial blood and the emperor's own sister, how could I possibly overshadow her? Moreover, having learned the emperor's secret, my fate was undoubtedly sealed. Yet heaven showed mercy, granting me rebirth against all odds. The moment I was reborn, I parted ways with Qin Yangchuan. He went to save Xiao Jing'an, helping her escape the fate of a political marriage. I went to save the crown prince, just to make life difficult for the 3rd prince. In my past life, I was obedient, followed every rule, pleased my husband, and managed the household. What kind of ending did I get in the end? Leaving the theater, I looked up to see Xiao Hongguang standing by the 2nd floor window, watching me. No matter what, the 3rd prince's faction must never gain power in this lifetime. Time flew by, and as summer began, it was already time for Princess Jing'an and Qin Yangchuan's wedding. Princess Jing'an was to be married from the palace, as her former study companion. I also received an invitation. My father, being the Vice Minister of Rights, naturally had to attend as well. Inside the carriage, he regarded me with obvious displeasure. What happened to all your bold declarations? You attended the princess's flower banquet but found no suitable match. The noble families we approached later all thought you were too old. You're so full of ideas. Yet now who would marry you besides Wang Lang? Even the princess is married now. I think you'd better settle things with Wang Lang quickly. I leaned against the carriage, closing my eyes to rest. Father, why the rush? I'm now a county princess. If I can't marry in the future, I can always go to my fief. It won't take up any of the Jiang family's land. Or perhaps, I opened my eyes. Father is in a hurry to marry me off to form an alliance, to engage in factionalism and corruption. Father's eyes nearly burst with rage. Silence. He was so angry that he didn't speak to me the whole way. I closed my eyes, enjoying the peace and quiet. The princess's wedding banquet was an extravagant affair. Those of slightly lower status in the capital couldn't even reach the threshold of this wedding feast. After witnessing the elaborate rituals, I stood among the crowd and locked eyes with Xiao Hongguang in the men's seating area, giving him a slight nod. Once the 3 ceremonies concluded, the princess was escorted to her chamber. While Qin Yangchuan came out to offer toasts, when he approached the 3rd prince's table, the prince wore an unfriendly expression. My mind quickly pieced together the underlying significance of the situation. The princess's consort of the previous dynasty brought disaster to the nation. Hence the current dynasty decreed that consorts may not hold official positions above the 3rd rank. By marrying the princess, Qin Yangchuan voluntarily gave up the opportunity to enter the center of power. Naturally, the 3rd prince, who had been grooming Qin Yangchuan as a trusted confidant, was far from pleased. I pondered deeply. Did this mean Qin Yangchuan had grown distant from the 3rd prince, or even had a falling out with him? Qin Yangchuan's rebirth naturally meant he couldn't be unaware that in his previous life, it was the 3rd prince who ascended the throne, nor could he be ignorant of how the 3rd prince's schemes against the crown prince's faction had all succeeded, in this life. With plans repeatedly failing, Qin Yangchuan never once warned the 3rd prince. Could it be that in his past life, he died later than I did, and something else happened between him and the 3rd prince? Was he perhaps discarded after being used? I sipped my wine without changing expression. The formalities concluded, and when the banquet was halfway through, suddenly a maidservant approached my side. "My lady, our lady wishes to meet you." "And who might your lady be?" The maidservant bowed and replied, "The Lady of Jiading." A smirk tugged at my lips. "Very well." I followed the maid to the lakeside in the rear courtyard. The Lady of Jiading stood by the lake. Hearing the commotion, she turned to look at me. "Lady Shiha, regarding last time's incident, I must thank you for saving me, otherwise, I fear things would have ended badly for me." "No need for thanks." I stood by her side. When injustice is seen on the road, one naturally helps. "Though there is one thing I'm curious about." I looked at her. "The father and brothers of Lady Jiading defend the border cities. I've heard you're a tiger daughter of a military family. That day's ruffian, even I could drive him away. How could Lady Jiading be utterly defenseless before him?" The magistrate of Jiading County lowered her head and suddenly let out a light chuckle. "You found out? What a pity." A sudden push came from behind, and as I lost my footing, I turned sideways and grabbed the magistrate of Jiading County standing nearby, pulling her into the water with me. "Ah!" The maid who had just pushed me screamed as she watched the county princess of Jiading fall into the water. The county princess of Jiading couldn't swim either, and she clung to me desperately in the water. I shook her off and dove beneath the surface. "But you can't." The county princess's voice faded behind me as I swam through the water. In my past life at this time, I truly couldn't swim. Yet in that previous life, I lived for 10 more years. After marriage, recalling how I nearly drowned as a child while play-acting to save a princess, and remembering that assassination attempt when I fell into the river at the cliff's base, I resolved to learn swimming. Now in this life, that skill naturally comes in handy, having lived in the Qin family for 10 years in my past life. I naturally knew that the river in the backyard was connected to the lotus pond in the front courtyard. Following the direction of my memory, I swam toward the lotus pond in the front courtyard. After my last exposure of Li Jiading's scheme, he must have been seething with resentment. His visit now surely carried no good intentions. Moreover, since this was Xiao Jing'an's wedding banquet, the two of them likely found common ground and conspired to ruin my reputation at the feast. When I saw only the river and the master-servant pair of Li Jiading in the backyard, I vaguely guessed their scheme, so before entering the backyard, I sent a maid to wait by the lotus pond in the front courtyard. All the guests were in the inner courtyard. I emerged from the lotus pond and reunited with the maid waiting by its side. The maid had already fetched a cloak and fresh clothes from the carriage and quickly draped them over me, her face full of concern. "Your Highness, what devilish scheme is second Miss Jiang plotting now?" A stone bridge spanned the lotus pond in the front courtyard. Xiao Hongguang, Meng Huining, and Luo Shenju stood upon it. Having witnessed everything, I looked at the maid, who shook her head and said, "I don't know why the 3 young masters are here either." In the exchange of glances, the 3 had already come down from the bridge. Xiao Hongguang looked at me and asked, "What happened?" "I accidentally fell into the water," I said. "I might need you all to bear witness for me in a moment. At the wedding banquet of Princess Jing'an and the eldest son of the Qin family, The lady of Jiading County fell into the water in the rear courtyard and was rescued by the second son of the Fang family in full view of the crowd. The second son of the Fang family was the nephew of the imperial concubine Shu and a cousin of Princess Jing'an. His reputation was rather unsavory, a notorious womanizer and bully who flaunted his misdeeds in public. His previous wife had barely died in the Fang household before he immediately visited a brothel. For this, he was impeached by the censor and suspended from his official duties, confined to his home, after being rescued by the second son of the Fang family. The lady of Jiading County wept incessantly, insisting that she had been pushed into the water and framed by the lady of Shihe County. Such an incident occurred at the princess's wedding banquet, yet they couldn't disturb the peace of the newlyweds and guests. The elderly matriarch of the Qin family, along with the highly respected old princess consort of the capital and the wife of the marquis, opened a separate room to seek justice for the lady of Jiading County. I changed my clothes and stood in the hall. The lady of Jiading County wept bitterly by the side, repeatedly threatening to dash her head against the wall and die. The old princess consort frowned at me. Lady Shihe of the county, the lady of Jiading County claims you pushed her into the river. Is this true? Me pushing the Jiading County princess into the river? What kind of accusation is this? I bear no grudge against her, we've never even interacted. Why would I push her into the river? Besides, I paused, at the last flower viewing banquet hosted by the Grand Princess, when the Jiading County princess was harassed by a rogue, I was the one who saved her. Why would I push her into the river? The people in the hall exchanged glances, finding this reasoning quite plausible. Who knows what dark motives you might harbor, the lady of Jiading County said bitterly. How can outsiders fathom the wicked thoughts of those who harm others? But as for your attempt to drown me, my maids witnessed it clearly. This was a desperate attempt to drag me down with her. I asked, Lady of Jiading County, since you and your servants are of one mind, naturally your stories align. Aside from your maids, do you have any other witnesses? The lady of Jiading County was stumped by the question. She had arranged this scheme today, having deliberately cleared everyone from the backyard, so what witnesses could there possibly be? Yet I have witnesses, I replied, today. The lady of Jiading invited me to the lakeside in the backyard to thank me for my previous assistance. We did indeed converse for a while, but afterward, I left. I went to admire the lotus blossoms in the front courtyard. Passing through the inner courtyard where many people saw me, I even encountered the heir of Prince Yang, the heir of Marquis Huayang, and the third son of the Luo family in the front courtyard. They can all testify on my behalf, Madam Qin. You must be aware that I just came from the front courtyard. Given the distance from the Qin family's rear courtyard to the front, it would have been impossible for me to push the county princess of Jiading and then make it to the front courtyard. Madam Qin glanced at me, her sharp eyes glinting, and sent her attendant to investigate. In less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the attendant returned with her report, reporting to all the noble ladies. This servant inquired in the inner courtyard, both young masters and ladies of the Li family, the three young masters of the Wang family, as well as Lord Chen and Lord Hu, all witnessed County Princess Shihe heading towards the front courtyard, the Crown Prince of Yang, the Marquis of Huayang's heir, and the third young master of the Luo family all claimed to have seen Lady Shihe at that time. After hearing this, one of the noble ladies remarked, so, Lady Jiading must have fallen into the water after Lady Shihe left. Otherwise, given that Lady Shihe was in the front courtyard at the time and considering how long it took to rescue Lady Jiading, she would have been submerged for the duration of an incense stick, an entire incense stick's worth of time. There'd be no life left to save by then. She likely wouldn't have survived until the second young master of the Fang family came to her rescue. As the noble ladies exchanged these remarks, Lady Jiading's face turned deathly pale. But your clothes are soaked. The lady of Jiading County seemed to have seized upon something and quickly retorted, you pushed me into the river, and I pulled you in as well. My maid saw it all. How else would you explain your drenched clothes? I replied unhurriedly, naturally. I was so absorbed in admiring the pond that I accidentally fell in. The three young masters in the front courtyard can all bear witness. If you don't believe me, you may ask them. The servants went to inquire and returned with confirmation. It seems the lady of Jiading County was so frightened by the fall that she misremembered the events. Someone concluded. I smiled and said, it's all right. The county princess was frightened. I naturally wouldn't blame her. You. The Jiading County princess was so furious she couldn't catch her breath. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted on the spot. Chaos ensued once again. Old Lady Qin clutched her head, exclaiming, quick, Take her back to the Li residence. With the farce concluded, the verdict naturally followed. Though it was about upholding justice, these noble women and the elderly madam weren't professional judges. Even if old Lady Qin knew about the underwater passage connecting the backyard lake to the front courtyard. With so many witnesses present, and this being my first visit to the Qin residence, she likely believed I couldn't possibly have discerned the river's direction and swum to the front courtyard in such a short time. Moreover, since the Princess of Jiading and the second young master of the Fang family had already been physically intimate, a scandal in itself, their marriage was inevitable. Why drag another person into this mess? Most crucially, with testimonies from the heirs of both the prince's and marquis's households, even if old Lady Qin sensed something amiss, the balance of power was clear. Compared to the Princess of Jiading, who bore an empty title without substantial backing, the weight of these influential families spoke for itself, and so, this matter was quietly swept under the rug. The matter was settled, and the crowd dispersed. I walked towards Xiao Hongguang and the other two, bowing in greeting. My thanks to young Master Xiao, young Master Meng, and young Master Luo. To mobilize so many wedding guests to testify for me in such a short time, the Crown Prince's faction truly wielded formidable influence. Luo Xianju snorted coldly. Daring to scheme against Zizhao, sparing her life was already showing her mercy. It seemed he had also learned about what happened at the princess's banquet last time. Xiao Hongguang said, "It's only right. You helped me last time, which is why she bore a grudge against you." Meng Huaning suddenly understood, so. The lady of Jiading County tried to plot against the county princess, only to suffer the consequences herself. How audacious, to dare such despicable acts at the princess's wedding banquet. The lady of Jiading County dares to act so boldly, she must have powerful backing. I asked, does the heir remember what I said? To ensure a foolproof plan, the chosen territory must be entirely under our control. This implied that the scheme against me at the princess's wedding banquet had the princess's involvement. It also suggested that the flower viewing banquet at the Grand Princess's estate could not have happened without her approval. That's impossible. Luo Xianju frowned and was the first to deny it. Whether it's true or not, you're all welcome to investigate. I bowed and turned to leave. Had I not returned from 10 years in the future, I would never have imagined that the Grand Princess was actually aligned with the third prince. The current Crown Prince was born to the late Empress and has always been doted upon, with the Grand Princess showing particular affection for this nephew of hers, even after the new Empress gave birth to the fifth prince. This situation remained completely unchanged. As for the third prince, born to Consort Shu, the Emperor's beloved consort, the Grand Princess had never gotten along with her temperamentally and thus maintained minimal contact. No one could have imagined that the Grand Princess would later assist the third prince in scheming against the fifth prince, born of the Steppe Empress. During the succession struggle, at the critical moment, she even went so far as to alter the imperial decree to help him ascend the throne, all because the Grand Princess and the third prince had an illicit affair, which had already been going on for several years by that time. Let's see if they can uncover anything. Why, in the bridal chamber adorned with red silks, Xiao Jing'an scattered longan and red dates across the floor, her expression frenzied. Why is she so lucky? How does she escape every single time? The messenger timidly spoke up. Your Highness. With a creak, the door opened. Qin Yangchuan, dressed in a red robe, walked in and saw this scene. Leave now, the servant, as if granted amnesty, quickly retreated and closed the door. Why? Xiao Jing'an frowned, turned to look at Qin Yangchuan, and muttered, why wasn't it her who had intimate contact with Fang Ziyi? Jing'an, calm down. Qin Yangchuan grasped her shoulders. Since things have come to this, stop worrying about others. Can't we just live our own lives well? No. Xiao Jing'an clutched her chest as tears streamed down her face. Just thinking about it, how in my past life, while I suffered in those barbaric western Ronglands, she married you and became your wife. It makes my heart ache. Qin Yangchuan sighed and pulled her into his embrace. If she's doing well, I feel uneasy. As if suddenly struck by a thought, Xiao Jing'an stood up abruptly. Could she have also been reborn? Recalling every incident over these past days, how Jiang Shihe saved the crown prince, thwarted the schemes of the county princess of Jiading, and even today managed to evade her, could it be that she too had been reborn? How could that be possible? Xiao Jing'an held Qin Yanchuan's hand. She couldn't possibly have been reborn. Right, I'm of noble blood, your heaven's favored one. It's only by divine grace that we were given a second chance. What is she? How could she possibly have the fortune to be reborn? But if she really has been reborn, will she try to take you from me again? What should I do then? Qin Yangchuan pulled Xiao Jing'an into his embrace, gently stroking her hair as he whispered tenderly, "That won't happen. Heaven granted us rebirth because our true love moved it. We won't be separated again. As for Jiang Shihe, whether she's been reborn or not, I don't know. But she's repeatedly thwarted the third prince's plans. He won't let her off easily." Xiao Jing'an's eyes lit up at these words. Yes, she ruined His Highness's plans. He won't let her off. So there'll be no need for me to intervene. Thus, Your Highness need not worry. Now that we're married, we need only focus on living our lives peacefully. Xiao Jing'an melted into his embrace and, as if recalling something, smiled as well. Now that the crown prince is still alive, my heartless elder brother will have his hands full. In her previous life, when she returned to the court after leaving the Western Rome, Qin Yangchuan had just lost his wife. After marrying Qin Yangchuan, she did experience a period of harmonious and happy days, but later, after her elder brother ascended the throne, he grew increasingly suspicious and began to distrust Qin Yangchuan. Qin Yangchuan said that he knew many of the emperor's secrets, and the emperor would never truly rest easy. As expected, Qin Yangchuan had departed before her. By the time of his death, Xiao Jing'an had wept herself dry of tears. The first half of her life had been filled with boundless favor. Only to suffer 10 bitter years among the Western Rome tribes, her spirit ground to dust. After finally securing a divorce and returning to court, she had enjoyed a few peaceful years only for her husband to be killed by her own brother. After Qin Yangchuan's death, he left a letter that was delivered into her hands. In the letter, Qin Yangchuan wrote that the greatest regret of his life was watching her obsessively pursue Xiao Hongguang, yet never receiving any response. Thus, he too became cautious, never daring to reveal his feelings. Later, the incident with Jiang Shihe occurred, severing any chance of a future with her, until the Western Rome envoys came to court, bringing misfortune upon her. The new king of Western Rome had just ascended the throne and was said to be a formidable figure. When he requested a marriage alliance with the Great Lin Kingdom, they could have simply bestowed the title upon an official's daughter or a commoner to serve as the bride. He was the third prince at the time, harboring selfish motives. With the crown prince dead, numerous brothers were eyeing the heir position covetously, and the future struggle for the throne would be a bloody battle. To lay the groundwork early, the third prince took the initiative to propose marrying his own sister, Princess Jing'an, to the king of Shirong to forge an alliance. The emperor initially opposed sending his own daughter for a political marriage, but the third prince persuaded him relentlessly until he finally consented. This was how Princess Jing'an came to be sent far away for a marriage alliance. At the end of the letter, Qin Yangchuan wrote, urging her to leave the dangerous capital and retreat to her fiefdom. After reading the letter, Xiao Jing'an was immediately overcome with rage, which severely damaged her vitality. She later left the capital for her fiefdom but lived only 2 more years. Brother, you've brought me and my husband to this point. How could I possibly let you win again in this lifetime? The crown prince's consort selection was finally settled. I sat in the courtyard reading when suddenly a small green fruit came crashing down onto my book. Looking up, I saw Luo Shenju sitting in the tree by the courtyard wall, still clutching several fruits in his hand. Something wrong? I came specifically to check on you. Fearing you might be so heartbroken you'd hang yourself after the selection of the crown prince's consorts was finalized. I was baffled. What does the crown prince's selection of consorts have to do with me? Luo Shenju raised an eyebrow and leaped down from the tree. I glanced around. Fortunately, there was no one nearby. Don't you have feelings for the crown prince? Me? Where did you hear that? Luo Shenju was puzzled. On the hunting grounds, you risked your life to save the crown prince. Didn't the princess request a marriage for you? It's a shame the crown prince wasn't willing. Later, you still wouldn't give up and attended the grand princess's flower viewing banquet. If that's not having feelings for the crown prince, then what is? And also, he lowered his voice, you helped the crown prince deal with the mastermind behind the scenes, wasn't it because? No. I closed the book, took a deep breath, and said, I have my own purpose. The young master Xiao knows it, so you'd better not speculate. Then do you love Zizhao? I stood up to leave, but he stopped me. Just joking. I halted and stared at him, suddenly remembering something. Did you get a sign to suppress the bandits? Luo Shenju was surprised. How did you know? Never mind how I know. Just be extra careful and watch out for underhanded schemes. Luo Shenju raised an eyebrow and nodded. All right. Hearing approaching voices, Luo Shenju leaped onto the wall and vanished without a trace. I shook my head and turned to see fourth sister walking over. Second sister, why did I hear a man's voice? Is that so? I covered my lips with a book. Producing a deep masculine voice, Fourth sister let out a relieved sigh. You scared me to death. I thought a strange man had broken into our home. Second sister. I heard from the gatekeeper that Wang Lang, the one father wants to arrange a marriage for you with, has come today. Would you like to take a look at him? I won't see him. Fourth sister continued. I heard that Wang Lang is quite handsome too. Are you really not going to meet him? Second sister. If he weren't handsome, he wouldn't have been able to charm the princess in our past life. Suddenly remembering something, I said to fourth sister, I just recalled some matters and need to return to my room. I quickly returned to my room, took a hairpin from the jewelry box, and threw it violently onto the floor. The beaded flower fell off, and the chain was flung away. After swiftly writing a note and tucking it into the secret compartment of the box, I called for the maid to come in. The jewelry sent by Linglang Pavilion last time was of poor quality. Have them take it back for repairs. Understood. The Grand Princess had been widowed for many years and kept numerous male companions in her previous life, but the one who truly captured the Grand Princess's heart was this Wang Lang, in her past life. Wang Lang only connected with the Grand Princess after years of frustration following his success in the imperial examinations. Why not let him appear before the princess in advance? Just worrying about how to end my father's thoughts, the letter was sent out, and a reply came within half a day. The handwriting on the paper was swift and powerful, with only one word written, okay. Within a few days, my father stormed in to find my mother and me. Look at you, refusing to relent. Now even Wang Lang won't marry you. Mother turned pale with shock. What? Father sneered. Don't think I don't know what's on your mind. You looked down on Wang Lang, yet wanted to keep him as a backup. Now he's pulled the rug from under you. You don't even have a safety net left. This, I said calmly. Father, mother, rest assured, I have my own fiefdom, so I won't be left with nowhere to go in the future. I am the Vice Minister of Rights. My father angrily retorted, my daughter is about to turn 18, yet she remains unmarried. How can I have the face to go out and lecture others on propriety? What does it matter if you have a fiefdom? People look at you as if you're a monster. Their collective scorn alone could drown you. My mother also panicked. What's wrong with Wang Lang? How could he change his mind so suddenly? Father took a deep breath and calmed down. The eldest princess has taken a liking to him. What? Mother's face turned pale. This is simply absurd. That's the eldest princess. Who dares to question her? Father rubbed his temples. Now we'll just have to find someone else. Most of the young men from official families of similar rank who were on good terms with the Jiang family had already been betrothed. Noble families only sought matches of equal status, and unless there were special circumstances, they were unwilling to marry beneath their station. If marrying downward, to avoid attracting those with ulterior motives, character assessment remained essential. Father pondered for a moment. I've heard you have some acquaintance with the heir of Prince Yang, the heir of Marquis Huayang, and the third young master of the Luo family. The threshold for the Yangwang heir is too high, and the Luo family comes from a military background. They're not a match for our family. The Huayang Marquis's household, being scholars, is worth striving for. I smiled faintly. Father, you're being picky now. Didn't you say before that I was too ambitious? Father snorted coldly, that Wang Lang, even with our Jiang family's support, he wasn't satisfied. He actually bypassed us to climb up to the princess's favor. Those of lowly status will do anything to rise in the world. Wang Lang was a man of fine appearance and outstanding literary talent. Though his origins were humble, barring any mishaps, he was certain to pass the imperial examinations with honors next year. But now that he's gone astray and become the princess's favored guest, it has somewhat shaken Father's resolve to promote scholars from humble backgrounds. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. With my elder brother passing early, I became the eldest of our Jiang family's current generation, with 2 younger sisters born of concubines and 1 younger brother beneath me. Unfortunately, my brother shows mediocre academic talent and likely won't achieve much in the imperial examinations, having failed to find a talented but impoverished scholar for a marriage alliance. Father then pinned his hopes on me marrying into a noble family, so that the Jiang family could later receive patronage from the aristocracy. It's just that, is marriage really necessary? If the third prince's sinister schemes are thwarted, the crown prince and his 3 close associates would surely remember the Jiang family's contribution. During the sweltering summer heat, I accompanied mother to the Jiang family's countryside estate for a 7-day retreat to escape the scorching weather. The maternal Rong family was wealthy, and the dowry estates and shops they gave to mother were of considerable value. This was one of them. A while ago, some Western Rong merchants passed by and stayed overnight. When they left, they gave us some seeds, calling them watermelons. I planted them. And the county princess may taste how they turned out. Mother was resting, so I followed the estate servants to stroll around the fields. Watermelons, a fruit that would later become wildly popular in the capital, were icy cool and sweetly refreshing when eaten in summer. I took a sip and nodded. The taste is good. Plant more to sell in the capital. I own a restaurant, so we can try serving it there first to test the waters. Understood. After walking around the fields for a while, the sky suddenly darkened. My lady, it looks like it's about to rain. The weather in July and August is so unpredictable, the maid said. Let's go back. Bean-sized raindrops soon pattered onto the ground, and the pouring rain fell from the sky, showing no signs of stopping anytime soon. My lady, would you like to rest for a while too? No need. Frowning, I gazed at the gloomy sky, feeling an inexplicable sense of foreboding for some reason. Bang bang bang. The door was being pounded, the urgent knocking sending waves of unease through those inside. Someone rushed to report at the entrance. Master. A group of armed men has arrived at the gate, each carrying blades. Their leader claims to be Xiao Hongguang, the capital guard commander, and they've brought along a wounded man. This is bad. Let them in and settle them in the East Wing room. After a moment's thought, I added, make sure not to disturb Mother. Also, send physician who over 15. As I stepped out of my room, I saw Xiao Hongguang dismounting from his horse, watching him walk through the rain to the corridor. I handed him a handkerchief before asking, what happened? Xiao Hongguang took the handkerchief and dabbed at the water droplets on his face, frowning as he said, Xianju is still injured. Is it serious? The bleeding wouldn't stop, and then it suddenly started raining. We came across this manor on the road. I didn't expect you to be its owner. As you said, there was indeed a spy who had infiltrated our ranks during the bandit suppression mission. Xianju caught them red-handed. Xiao Hongguang explained the situation. During the bandit suppression, we found a young girl in the bandit den who claimed to have been abducted from the capital. Xianju took pity on her and brought her along. On the way back to the capital, he was stabbed in a vital spot. Fortunately, it happened just outside the city. His men sent up a signal, so I led a team to find them. I nodded. Don't worry, I have a physician here. In my previous life, my mother died from a chronic illness when it suddenly flared up, so in this life, I arranged for an excellent physician to care for her health in advance, and even when coming to the estate, I made sure medical staff followed her every step. In the East Wing, doctor who was stopping Luo Xuanzhou's bleeding. He lay on the bed, his upper body exposed, his face deathly pale. I only glanced for a moment. Before I could even look away, my view was suddenly blocked. Xiao Hongguang reached out to shield my eyes, saying calmly, what is contrary to propriety, do not look at. I turned my back accordingly. Are you hungry? Then, I'll have the servants prepare some food. All right, Xiao Hongguang said. The rain kept pouring down. When the servants prepared the food and brought it up, doctor who wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and finished bandaging Luo Xuanzhou's wound. That was close, too close to death. Thank you for your hard work, Doctor Who. Xiao Hongguang gave a meaningful glance, and his attendant immediately produced a gold ingot from his robe. Physician whose eyes gleamed with greed as he hastily took it and bit into it. I said, since there's no immediate danger to his life, let young Master Luo rest properly. Young Master, please come with me. The room prepared for Xiao Hongguang already had meals laid out. I wasn't sure what the young master would like to eat, so I just prepared some home-style dishes. I hope you won't find them unworthy. Xiao Hongguang shook his head. I won't. Then please enjoy your meal at leisure. I'll take my leave now. Wait. I turned around and met his inquisitive phoenix eyes. Isn't it rather coincidental that County Princess Shihe happened to be at the estate along Xuanzhou's return route to the city? Not coincidental, I replied unhurriedly, because I intentionally positioned myself here as a double insurance. Plans can never keep up with changes. Even if I knew their plans in advance, how could I be sure they wouldn't alter them last minute? Moreover, the bandit suppression journey is fraught with unpredictable dangers. If young Master Luo's life couldn't be secured, would Marquis Xiao still trust me? Xiao Hongguang narrowed his eyes. So what you said earlier could change at any moment. No plan in this world is guaranteed to go smoothly, just as in your plans, young Master Xiao. There probably wasn't an item about leaving the capital without permission. As the capital guard commander, leaving the capital without authorization, I'm afraid you'll be facing some punishment. With that, I bowed and retreated with a smile. Enjoy your meal, young Master Xiao. Returning to my mother's bedroom, she had already been awake for a while. Are there guests at the estate? I recounted the matter in detail, but my mother's expression gradually grew solemn. 11. since young Master Luo has entered our family's estate, we must take good care of him. If anything were to happen to him, our family would likely face serious trouble. The Luo family was a military lineage. The eldest son had died on the battlefield, the second son had survived but was left with crippled legs. And the third son was now the last remaining healthy male heir. Mother, don't worry, though there are risks. If young Master Luo comes through unharmed, it would mean a favor owed to our family. With a sigh, Mother nodded. Let's hope so. As evening approached, the rain gradually ceased. Xiao Hongguang and his party made their final preparations before setting off back to the capital. Princess Shihe, I'll leave Shenju with you for now. I'll send word to the Luo family to come fetch him. I nodded. My mother, who had come out to see him off, asked, Young Master Xiao, it's already dark. Why not leave tomorrow? Xiao Hongguang mounted his horse and glanced at me. In a hurry to go home and get a beating. I raised an eyebrow. Safe travels. A group of people departed in grand procession. Before leaving, Xiao Hongguang left some guards at the estate as a precaution against any hidden schemes, ensuring tight security. Within just 2 hours, Luo Shenju developed a fever and was tended to by a servant. At night, just as they were preparing to rest, someone knocked on the estate's gate again. The gatekeeper opened the door to find members of the Luo family. Madame Luo arrived with her daughter, her face filled with panic, knowing how worried they were. Mother quickly let them in, showed them Luo Shenju still lying in bed, and comforted them with warm hospitality. I heard from the young master, thank goodness. Thank goodness you were nearby, otherwise my son. As she spoke, Madame Luo's tears threatened to fall once more. With great difficulty, they managed to calm the situation and arranged rooms for the people from the Luo family, finally restoring peace to the estate. Luo Xuanzhou's injuries were unstable, and to avoid aggravating his wounds from the journey, Madame Luo and her daughter stayed at the estate for 3 or 4 more days before taking him back. Luo Shenju woke up the next day. After resting for a few days, he felt well enough to walk and insisted on boarding the carriage himself, but his father and brother, who had come to fetch him, refused and insisted on having him carried onto it. The usually proud and aloof general, being lifted up by others, couldn't help but blush with embarrassment. Madame Luo took my mother's hand and said with a smile, Madame Jiang, please give careful consideration to what I mentioned the other day, after the Luo family's carriage departed. I asked my mother what it was about. Frowning with worry, she replied, Madame Luo favors a marriage between you and the third young Master Luo. I was initially somewhat inclined, but then I remembered that military officers' lives are inherently precarious. This third young Master Luo nearly lost his life this time, better to forget it. I chuckled lightly. Mother is right. Upon returning to the capital, news spread that Luo Shenju had been injured while suppressing bandits and that the heir of Prince Yang had left his post without permission to venture beyond the city walls, earning him 10 strokes of the rod from the emperor. The public was soon abuzz with discussion. Though one was injured and another punished, their foundation remained unshaken. After all his efforts, the third prince grew furious when the crown prince's faction remained unscathed, eventually sidelining the strategist who had advised him until his rise to power in his previous life. In the opera house, after Xiao Hongguang shared this news, I remarked, then I'm afraid we won't see the third scheme unfold, the third scheme to frame Meng Huining for imperial examination fraud. The third prince no longer heeded that man's schemes, so his subsequent plots naturally couldn't be carried out. This person's strategies are extremely vicious. If we can't win him over, we must eliminate him as soon as possible. The crown prince's faction quickly launched a counterattack. First, the maternal family of the third prince's birth mother, Consort Shu, the Fang family, was investigated for corruption, bribery, and trading official positions. The emperor ordered a thorough investigation, implicating many court officials, including several of the third prince's key supporters. Then there was the murder of that strategist, disguised as a death from alcoholism. With the carefully planted court officials being uprooted one by one, coupled with the death of his most capable strategist, the third prince found himself in dire straits. The third prince's misfortune was my good fortune. Amidst the court disputes, the Minister of Rights chose to retire at the height of his career, leaving his position vacant. The crown prince personally arranged everything and promoted my father. My father returned from court, changed into his official black gauze cap, and hurried to the ancestral hall to offer incense to our forebears. My mother also said, fortunately, we didn't rush to arrange a marriage. Now that your father has been promoted to a third-rank official, combined with your status as a county princess, you're worthy of marrying the descendants of princes and nobles. That night, My father hosted a family banquet, where fatherly kindness and filial piety were displayed in full measure. After the family banquet, he called me into his study. "Speak, what's going on?" His expression was unreadable, neither pleased nor otherwise. "When did you secretly board the Crown Prince's ship behind my back?" The current Crown Prince was born to the late Empress, designated heir since childhood, yet the Emperor later established a new Empress, who bore the fifth prince. Though the Crown Prince's position now seems as solid as a fortress, how many heirs apparent throughout history have met with favorable ends? The Crown Prince's appointment of him to the position of Minister of Rights was undoubtedly a declaration to everyone that their Jiang family had boarded the Crown Prince's ship. "The Crown Prince is the heir apparent. What's wrong with boarding his ship?" I said softly. "Father, wealth is found in danger. Isn't it those one or two critical moments that determine a person's entire fate? In my previous life, right up until my death, father remained only a vice minister of rights. You're lecturing me now. If father is unwilling, I can send word to His Highness the Crown Prince." I retreated to advance. Father frowned and put on airs. "Enough, since things have come to this, let it be so. Your father can only stake the entire Jiang family on this gamble, and your marriage," I said. "Your daughter has just rendered great service to the Crown Prince. Is father so eager to divide my merits now?" Father fell silent, flicked his sleeve, and left. "Do as you please, I can no longer control you." After that day, father indeed stopped pressing me about marriage arrangements, instead turning his attention to securing a better match for fourth sister. The son of the capital governor, originally intended for fourth sister, was no longer considered after father's promotion. The fourth sister remained sullen and unhappy. She had met the young master from the capital prefecture's family, originally arranged for marriage, and had taken quite a liking to him. But now that their father wanted to make other arrangements, she was unwilling. When the fourth sister came to confide in me, I recalled how in my past life she had married her originally intended match and lived an extremely harmonious and happy life. "If you wish, you could plead with father. He has always doted on you, and if you ask, he will surely agree, unlike me, who has to negotiate with father to get what I want." "Really?" fourth sister asked nervously. "I'm afraid father will scold me for being improper, interfering in my own marriage arrangements." Second sister, "I truly envy you, with your title as county lady. Even when father and mother arrange a match for you, they must first seek your opinion." I smiled faintly. "If you truly don't wish to consider another match, then go ask father for his consent. You must voice your thoughts, only then can father understand." Fourth sister nodded after hearing this. "All right." Before half a day had passed, she came to find me with a beaming face. Second sister, "Father has agreed to my request." I nodded. Fourth sister is truly blessed by fate, both in this life and the last. She was destined to live well. Time flew by swiftly. It had already been over a year since my rebirth. The Crown Prince's influence grows increasingly stable, while the third prince temporarily lies low. In this spring imperial examination, both Meng Huaning and Wang Lang participated. My father, as the Minister of Rights, served as the chief examiner for the capital's spring examination. 9 days passed, and the spring examination concluded smoothly. Father wasn't mistaken. Wang Lang is indeed a man of great talent, ranking third on the list, while Meng Huaning placed 17th. After the palace examination, Wang Lang became the Tanhua, third-place scholar, while Meng Huaning earned the title of Jinsha, metropolitan graduate. The heir of the Marquis of Huayang passing the imperial examinations and entering officialdom was certainly a great asset to the Crown Prince, yet no one knew that Wang Lang was actually the most useful chess piece the Crown Prince had planted in this entire examination. Previously, Wang Lang had been promoted by the Crown Prince's subordinates and placed by the side of the Grand Princess. Half a year later, after achieving high honors in the exams, he had completely gained the Grand Princess's trust and was subsequently recommended by her to the third prince. "Aunt, why?" The Crown Prince was furious upon learning of this matter. Previously, investigations into the connection between the Grand Princess and the third prince had yielded no evidence, but now, with a pawn planted in place, everything became crystal clear. The Grand Princess was indeed secretly supporting the third prince. "Jiang Shihe, you've known about this all along, tell me. Why would my aunt support the third prince? She has always doted on me. Why would she do this?" I turned to Xiao Hongguang standing beside me. This humble subject dare not speak. I command you to speak, now speak." Gritting my teeth, I knelt down. "The answer, Your Highness, lies in the one you least suspect." Outrageous. The Crown Prince angrily smashed his wine cup. Xiao Hongguang stepped forward to shield me, blocking the splashing wine. "Your Highness, please calm your anger." The prince closed his eyes, his chest heaving violently, but ultimately waved his hand to dismiss everyone. Deep in the Emerald Mountains, a painted pleasure boat floated on the lake, accompanied by a smaller one tied beside it, the very vessel I had arrived in. Stepping out of the cabin and onto the deck, Xiao Hongguang turned to me. "Your Highness shares an exceptionally close bond with the Grand Princess, which makes this sudden change hard to accept." I nodded. "Lady Shiha of the county." He asked, "In your opinion, now that the third prince lies dormant, what move might he make next?" "A strategy of sowing discord," I replied. "With your Highness gaining increasing prominence at court while His Majesty remains in his vigorous prime, it's inevitable that suspicions may arise. Your Highness should now deliberately commit minor faults to maintain equilibrium. This will prevent those with ill intentions from exploiting the situation." "Okay." Xiao Hongguang glanced at the small boat tied beside the painted pleasure barge and said, "I'll see you down." A warm touch encircled my waist as Xiao Hongguang lightly stepped off, bringing me onto the small boat. The pressure at my waist loosened, steadying my footing. I took a step back. "My thanks, young Master Xiao." The two of us boarded the small boat, yet Xiao Hongguang showed no hurry to return. He lowered his gaze, his eyes settling on the jade pendant at my waist. "I heard that you and Shenju are about to have happy news." Ever since Luo Shenju was taken back from my family's estate, his attitude toward me had changed considerably. Surprisingly, he didn't oppose Madame Luo's wish for our families to be joined in marriage, but due to the natural divide between civil and military officials, my mother refused. However, not long after, Luo Shenju came to find me, awkwardly asking me to reconsider. Clearly, he had taken a liking to me. I did give it some serious thought. As for Luo Shenju himself, he was someone who clearly distinguished between love and hate, but still had a childish temperament. He'd make a good friend, but anything more was out of the question. I still remember all the sarcastic remarks he made about me before. However, I didn't explicitly refuse either, only giving vague responses and saying I needed to think about it, because according to my memories, the envoys from the Western Rome are about to arrive at court to seek a marriage alliance with a princess of the Lin Kingdom. Both the third prince and Princess Jing'an, that pair of siblings, see me as a thorn in their side. Although they've been lying low recently, I suspect they won't let this opportunity pass them by. Now in the court, Princess Jing'an is already married, and the lady of Jiading County recently became engaged to the second son of the Fang family. Counting them all, I'm the only one left with the most suitable status. If they really set their sights on me, the Jiang and Luo families would have already made contact, and news of an engagement could be spread immediately. Besides, Luo Shenju isn't a bad person aside from his previous sarcasm toward me. He'd actually make a decent match. With that in mind, I gave an ambiguous reply. Perhaps. Xiao Hongguang seemed dissatisfied with this answer, his brows furrowing slightly. "If you have no such intentions toward Shenju, it would be best to make it clear sooner rather than later." I stared at him in confusion. How does young Master Xiao know that I have no feelings for young Master Luo? Are you the worm in my belly that knows all my thoughts? Xiao Hongguang fell silent. "Young Master Xiao, it's nothing." Xiao Hongguang turned his face away. "You may leave now." The scenery beside me began moving backward as I turned to look at Xiao Hongguang, who had already returned to the painted boat. The dusk kneaded the water's surface into countless golden foils. He stood at the highest point of the deck, his figure tall and slender, with broad, straight shoulders. His pupils were dark as lacquer, his gaze firmly fixed on this small boat. In a flash of lightning, I suddenly realized something. "Wait," I said to the boatman, "please trouble yourself to row back. There's something I must discuss with the heir apparent." The palace was hosting a banquet for the visiting envoys from the Western Rome. The newly appointed king of the Western Rome had not yet chosen a queen, so he specially sent envoys to the Great Lin Kingdom to seek the hand of a Lin princess in marriage. After hosting a banquet for the envoys, who stayed overnight in the palace, ministers inquired about the emperor's opinion on who should be sent for the marriage alliance. The emperor was rather indifferent. "Just confer the title on any woman and send her over." A minister said, "Your Majesty, this old subject believes that our Great Lin and the Western Rome have maintained friendly relations for generations. Now that the Western Rome has a new king, it would not be appropriate to simply confer the title on any woman and send her as their queen." The emperor pondered for a moment. "So, you already have someone in mind," another minister said. "This old minister believes that the county princess Shiha would be most suitable. As a county princess, Shiha is already of noble status. Moreover, She remains unmarried, making her the perfect candidate to marry the king of Shirong as his queen. The emperor frowned and waved his hand impatiently. She's not suitable, think of someone else. After much deliberation, this old minister still believes. Xiao Hongguang has already requested an imperial marriage decree for himself and Jiang Shihe, and I've agreed, it just hasn't been issued yet. Do you want me to go back on my word? We dare not. Seeing the emperor's decision was final, the ministers could only chatter among themselves about who might be suitable for the marriage alliance. Minister of Rights Jiang Chengshu suppressed his heart, which had nearly leapt out of his throat, and settled it back into his chest. When the news that a court official had proposed I be sent as a political bride reached my ears, I thought to myself, as expected, my initial guess had been correct, they truly wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. I recalled that day when I had the boatman row back, and Xiao Hongguang, who had been watching the boat intently, swiftly descended to ask if there was anything else I needed. I said bluntly, I need a marriage. I laid out all my previous considerations in one breath. Though I have no feelings for young Master Luo, both his family and he himself are willing to marry me. At this critical juncture, he is the most suitable candidate. Xiao Hongguang stared at me for a long while without speaking. After talking to myself for so long without getting a response, a twinge of regret welled up in me. Perhaps my seasickness has muddled my mind. He and Luo Shenju grew up together as brothers. Maybe he's seen through my ulterior motives and can't bear to watch Luo Shenju be deceived by me. How could I have thought that he, dismissing the wild thoughts in my mind, I quickly added, but I can try with young Master Luo. Xiao Hongguang spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. If I were willing to, would he still be the most suitable choice? The words I had just prepared came to an abrupt halt at my lips. What did you say? If I were willing to, then Xianju wouldn't be the most suitable candidate. Xiao Hongguang stepped closer, his gaze upon me growing intense. You once said you wished to leave the capital someday and go to your own fiefdom. If you marry into the Luo family, they would never allow it. Sorting out my somewhat confused thoughts, I averted my gaze to the lake as if seeking escape. Your fief is within Yang territory. Marrying me would be more convenient. His scorching gaze seemed to burn me, prompting me to ask, then what about your feelings for me? After a long pause, I heard him say, the county princess needs a marriage, and I need a princess consort. Needed. The heat that had surged through my body moments ago cooled down. I shook my head. Forget it. Qin Yangchuan and I were married for 10 years in our past life, yet his heart belonged to someone else. He never spared me a single thought, sometimes treating me worse than a stranger. I'd rather spend my life with a husband who doesn't love me but cherishes me deeply, than endure a marriage built solely on naked self-interest. If the heir wants to find a consort, there are plenty who'd flock to him. I lowered my head. My words just now offended the heir. I shall take my leave. My wrist was caught in his grasp, and Xiao Hongguang seemed to let out a faint sigh. I thought the county princess merely sought a marriage to evade schemes, hence my earlier words. It turns out she was seeking a genuine heart. Then why not come and listen for yourself? He placed my palm over his left chest. Though separated by fabric, I could feel the scorching warmth. Each fierce heartbeat pulsed distinctly against my palm, impossible to mistake. I pressed my lips together and curled my fingers. Choose me, will you? My father's return from court interrupted that day's memories. Still in his official robes, he rushed to ask as soon as he came home. Let me ask you this, when did you and the Crown Prince of Yang become involved? The Crown Prince of Yang has already sought an imperial decree for marriage, and only now, as your father, do I find out. Do you think this is acceptable? Father knows now, doesn't he? I leisurely took a sip of tea. What's with that expression? Father, shouldn't you be happy? Otherwise, this marriage alliance would have truly fallen on my shoulders. Thinking about it now, my previous considerations really weren't thorough enough. Although it will be announced as an engagement to the public, we are not yet married. If the emperor is determined to have me marry for the sake of the nation, a single imperial decree would be impossible to resist. At that point, it would depend on whether the status of my betrothed carries enough weight. Xiao Hongguang is the heir of the Prince of Yang, has protected the emperor multiple times, and holds an important position. The emperor would never go back on his word after having promised him in advance. However, those who see me as a thorn in their side will have their schemes thwarted, especially Princess Jing'an, who will likely be furious. The imperial edict arrived at the Jiang residence, and before long, the Princess of Yang came calling with a warm demeanor, bringing many gifts. Xiao Hongguang's mother, the Princess of Yang, was the younger sister of the late empress and the biological aunt of the crown prince. Her status was noble, and she had always lived a reclusive life. Seeing her such amiable attitude, my mother felt at ease. As I looked at the Princess of Yang, I suddenly remembered my past life, how the Yang prince's household had been falsely accused of treason, the prince executed, and the entire family exiled. At that time, I went to deliver medicinal soup to Qin Yangchuan, who was still attending to official duties despite his illness, and learned he was on the city wall. When I arrived, he was standing with the third prince, both looking down from the battlements at the scene below. Members of the Yangwang manor, dressed in prisoner garb and shackled at the feet, departing the capital. It was said that on the exile journey, the delicate and pampered Yangwang consort, who had long adhered to a vegetarian diet, perished before reaching halfway. The rest of the Yangwang manor's household also died out completely, toiling as convict laboris in the exile lands. Later, the third prince ascended the throne, and the northern Di invaded again, acting as a savior. The third prince presented evidence to exonerate the Yang prince's residence and appointed Xiao Hongguang as the commander to lead the campaign against the northern Di. Because of this, Xiao Hongguang became utterly loyal to the third prince. After the northern Di were pacified, the king of the western Rome died, and his younger brother, upon ascending the throne, once again named Princess Jing'an as his queen. The third prince took offense, citing this as a grave insult to Central Plains etiquette and to Princess Daling, and dispatched Xiao Hongguang to attack the western Rome and bring back Princess Jing'an. If the Xiao Hongguang of his past life had known that the one who restored his reputation for the Yang prince's residence was also the one who framed him and cast him into the abyss, one wonders what he would have felt. Nor is it known when, in this lifetime, with their repeated miscalculations, they will strike against the Yang prince's residence. Shihe, come. The princess consort of Yang signaled for me to extend my hand and placed the family heirloom jade bracelet onto my wrist. Once the imperial decree is issued, it becomes an unchangeable matter. Since Zizhao personally sought this marriage, it's clear he holds you in high regard. I'm giving you this bracelet in advance. Thank you, Your Highness. The jade bracelet on my wrist was a pure, translucent emerald green, its exceptional quality evident at a glance. My fingers brushed against it, feeling its smooth and lustrous surface beneath my touch. No matter what happened in my past life, in this lifetime, I would never allow the schemes of treacherous people to succeed again. The annual polo tournament began, bustling with excitement and grandeur. Mother brought me and fourth sister along, and many people gathered around us with welcoming smiles. After exchanging greetings with fourth sister, I went for a stroll around the area. Fourth sister remarked, "This is only possible now that times are better. In the past, who would have given our family a second glance? Better to keep such thoughts to ourselves, no need to voice them aloud." Fourth sister murmured in agreement, and as we wandered, she spotted her betrothed approaching. He invited her to play polo, and fourth sister glanced at me. I said, "Go ahead." Playing polo in broad daylight with one's betrothed can hardly be considered improper. The polo field was vast, surrounded by dense woods. After walking for some time, I wanted to return and rest when I happened to run into Xiao Jing'an. Shihe. Xiao Jing'an called out to me with a smile, "I heard you're going to marry Xiao Hongguang. I haven't had the chance to congratulate you yet. Rumor has it that Xiao Hongguang personally requested the imperial marriage. When did you two become involved? You've been by my side for so many years, how could I have known nothing about it?" I also smiled and replied, "It was actually the princess who brought us together, at her wedding banquet in the Qin residence. The lady of Jiading County fell into the water and insisted I pushed her. I asked the young master Xiao, who had seen me in the front courtyard that day, to testify for me. That's how we became acquainted." "Is that so?" Xiao Jing'an twitched the corner of his mouth, his deep gaze fixed on the horse track. "In the past at the palace, the two of us often played polo together. Since today is this grand polo event, why don't we have a match?" "All right," I readily agreed. Today Qin Yangchuan was on duty, while Xiao Jing'an had teamed up with the daughter of the Minister of Works, scanning the field. I hadn't yet chosen a partner when I saw Li Jiading approaching me. "Princess and county lady, are you playing polo? Why not take me along?" Xiao Jing'an responded, "Sure, but I've already promised Miss Wang. Why don't you team up with Shihe? It's perfect since you two have some misunderstandings. A game might just turn your conflict into harmony." Li Jiading looked at me. "What does the county princess say?" I nodded in agreement. Shortly after the teams of two were formed and the polo match began, Li Jiading's and my team quickly fell behind. Xiao Jing'an and Miss Wang worked together seamlessly, while in contrast, our team either failed to catch the polo balls I hit towards Li Jiading, or Li Jiading sent the balls flying to the horizon. After the match, Li Jiading's face was full of remorse. Lady Shihe, I'm truly sorry. It's been a while since I last played, so my hands are a bit rusty. Lady Jiading's martial skills have declined, and her polo game has grown unfamiliar. She really ought to practice more. Without paying attention to Li Jiading's expression, I took a short rest, sitting atop my horse. I spotted Xiao Hangguang arriving at the polo field in the distance. The game resumed with Xiao Jing'an launching even fiercer attacks, the ball constantly volleying between her and Miss Wang. Seeing this, Li Jiading also seemed anxious, abandoning his previous timid stance as he intercepted the ball and smashed it forcefully toward me. The ball came flying straight and struck my horse right in the eye. The pained animal let out a long whinny before bolting wildly across the field. This horse was trained at the stables. Though horses are intelligent creatures, I was a stranger to it. When its eye started hurting, the horse simply stopped caring about the rider on its back. I pulled the reins tight with all my strength, catching a glimpse of Xiao Jing'an's excited expression beside me. So this was their plan all along. I clamped my legs around the horse, lowered my body, and yanked the reins to change direction. Seeing Xiao Jing'an's expression shift from smug excitement to sheer terror, I shouted, "Princess, get out of the way." Xiao Jing'an reacted swiftly, as the horse charged straight toward her. She raised the stick in her hand and struck its head with a fierce swing. "Damn beast, back off." The reason beasts are beasts is precisely because they don't understand human words. The horse's head was struck, and the steed beneath grew even more furious, rearing its legs and delivering a powerful kick to the horse carrying Princess Jing'an. Princess Jing'an's horse also lost control, galloping wildly around the arena. The scene quickly descended into chaos. The horse trainers whistled from the sidelines, but the pained horses refused to obey, continuing their frenzied dash. My own mount was no different. I could only press my body low, gripping the reins tightly, yet not daring to pull too hard lest I provoke the enraged beast further. The sound of hooves rose behind me as Xiao Hangguang entered the scene, riding his horse to catch up and move alongside me. "Give me your hand," he said in a deep voice, and I quickly extended my hand to him. A strong force pulled me, and soon I was standing before Xiao Hangguang. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head and relaxed, leaning my back against his chest. At the other end, Xiao Jing'an's horse also came to a quick stop. He dismounted, his face pale, but still cursed fiercely, "Damn beast." It was unclear whether he was cursing the horse or something else. The horse I had been riding, now free of its rider, dashed across the field even faster, with several people unable to stop it. Watching in horror as the horse suddenly changed direction and charged straight toward Xiao Jing'an, who had just struck its head with a pole. Xiao Jing'an was trampled by the horse's hooves, with tremendous force. A single stomp left blood already seeping from the corners of his mouth. "Princess." I sat on the horse and pressed down on the hand with which Xiao Hangguang had just thrown a stone at the horse's rump. "Actually, I'm injured." With that, I leaned into his embrace and closed my eyes. Xiao Hangguang's body tensed slightly. I opened my eyes just a slit to meet his gaze, feeling his body relax again. Then, everyone at the polo match saw the air of Prince Yang helping his betrothed off the horse, his face filled with urgency. "Fetch the imperial physician at once. The county princess is injured." With one princess and one county princess injured during the grand polo event, the gathering could no longer continue. The families had no choice but to pack up and return. Xiao Hangguang escorted me back to the Jiang residence before summoning the imperial physician. After saying something unknown, the physician examined my pulse by the bed where I lay unconscious and let out a sigh. "Lady Shihe seems to have injured her brain, with internal bleeding forming inside." Hearing that it was a brain injury made it sound extremely serious. The entire household was in a frantic uproar. And news of my brain injury quickly spread. Xiao Jing'an had it even worse. She was trampled by a horse, breaking several ribs and rupturing her internal organs, making it difficult for her to even speak. The imperial physician said that even if she recovered, she would likely remain frail in the future and unable to do strenuous work. The princess being in such a state naturally enraged the emperor. After inquiring about what happened during the polo match, it was discovered that everything was caused by the polo ball from the county princess of Jiading hitting the horse's eye, causing the horses on the field to lose control. Li Jiading was the descendant of loyal martyrs, with both his father and elder brothers having died defending the border cities for the nation. Even the emperor couldn't punish him too severely. Jiang Shihe, on the other hand, was the indisputable future princess consort of the Prince of Yang. And now she was injured and still unconscious. The emperor pondered over it repeatedly, but his anger remained unappeased. In the end, He ordered Li Jiading to be caned on the palms and to copy Buddhist scriptures 100 times as punishment. Miss Wang, the daughter of the Vice Minister of Works, was also punished to copy Buddhist scriptures 100 times. The emperor's decision came down, and Xiao Hongguang stood by the bedside, relaying the news to me. I let out a sigh of relief, opened my eyes, and sat up. Since the emperor's decision has been made, when do you plan to wake up? Xiao Hongguang asked. The day after the princess wakes. I'll wake, I replied, looking at him. If you don't want to bring me meals every day, I can wake up now. These past few days, Xiao Hongguang has been visiting daily, secretly bringing me food. After all, the Jiang residence is full of prying eyes. If I was still pretending to be unconscious while the kitchen kept delivering meals as usual, the ruse would be exposed. But this has been hard on Xiao Hongguang. Rumors are spreading that he's deeply devoted to his fiancée, so distraught by her unconscious state that he's been coming to the Jiang household every day to keep vigil. When someone spotted Xiao Hongguang carrying a food box, they simply explained that he was so worried about his fiancée he'd lost his appetite, and could only eat when keeping watch by her side. Thinking of the rumors outside, I couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Hongguang opened the food box by the bed and took out the dishes one by one. Have some soup first. He ladled the soup and brought it to my lips. I swallowed a mouthful and said, I wasn't actually injured. They're really treating me like an invalid now. You were frightened after all. A cold glint flashed through Xiao Hongguang's eyes. We've been too focused on monitoring the third prince's movements recently, and completely overlooked the existence of Princess Jing'an. The third prince was running around in a flurry. First, his longtime overseers of the capital's river transport were impeached for corruption, dealing him a major setback. Then, with the recent Yellow River breach causing massive floods in Huizhou, the emperor dispatched him there for disaster relief. With the floodwaters now under control and imperial funds allocated, this was practically an opportunity for merit handed to the third prince if he applied even modest effort. The emperor intended to elevate the third prince slightly to curb the crown prince's arrogance. Although the emperor had grown wary of the crown prince, the latter had only committed minor faults during this period, nothing serious, and ultimately, the emperor still had to send someone to clean up the mess. The crown prince once again expressed his admiration and dependence, and between father and son, there was a touching display of paternal kindness and filial piety. I still remember, in my past life, the emperor passed away 6 years after Qin Yangchuan and I were married. I was lost in thought when I suddenly heard Xiao Hongguang say while feeding me, "Don't worry, Xiao Jing'an won't live." From the results of this imperial physician's diagnosis, it's clear that even part of the Imperial Medical Bureau has been infiltrated by the Crown Prince. Suddenly realizing something, I grabbed Xiao Hongguang's wrist. She can't die yet. Qin Yangchuan, yes, Qin Yangchuan. Behind Xiao Jing'an stood Qin Yangchuan. When the third prince was counterattacked by the Crown Prince without any ability to resist, I guessed that Qin Yangchuan, after his rebirth, had no intention of assisting the third prince again in this lifetime. Something must have happened after my death that made the reborn Qin Yangchuan resolve to become the consort of a princess, ensuring he would never hold a high-ranking position in the court in the future. If Xiao Jing'an were to die because of this, the powerful minister Qin Yangchuan from the previous life would inevitably rejoin the third prince's faction. With his memories of the past life, that would be disadvantageous for us. Unexpectedly, the very next day, Xiao Hongguang came to the Jiang residence, bringing something with him. It was a strip of white silk. Yesterday, Qin Yangchuan came to see me, begging me to spare Xiao Jing'an's life. He also said there was something he wanted me to show you, that you'd understand once you saw it. I frowned at the white silk, when suddenly I remembered something. In my past life, Qin Yangchuan and I fell off a cliff together and spent a night in a cave. That night, he wasn't completely unconscious but remained awake for a while. Blood seeped from the wound on his back, and he began to deliver his last words. I tore off a piece of white silk from my skirt and pressed it firmly against his wound to stop the bleeding. I won't let you die, Master Qin. You saved my life, and I will repay you. He knew I had also been reborn, using the life-saving grace from our previous life to bargain for Xiao Jing'an's life. Truly, his infatuation remains unchanged. Forget it. I sighed and looked at Xiao Hongguang. What about Xiao Jing'an? Xiao Jing'an's life is of no importance. Xiao Hongguang stood by the bedside, his icy expression unseen since the engagement resurfacing. I only want to ask, what is your connection with Qin Yangchuan? He once saved my life. I stuffed the white silk into Xiao Hongguang's hand. Now that he's pleading with past favors, this way we're even. Seeing the man's expression remain unchanged, I smiled and coaxed, I'll have it burned. Don't be jealous. Xiao Hongguang's expression softened slightly as he turned his hand to grasp mine. 3 months passed before Xiao Jing'an and Qin Yangchuan, barely recovered from their injuries, returned to their fiefdom. As expected, they wouldn't be back for at least 3 to 5 years. The third prince gained merit for disaster relief, received rewards, and enjoyed a period of pride, but later, when the embezzlement of disaster relief funds was exposed, the third prince was charged with crimes. After Xiao Hongguang and I got married, the newly appointed imperial scholar Wang Lang accused the eldest princess of plotting rebellion, shocking the entire court. The eldest princess's fiefdom rebelled, and hidden armor was discovered. Wang Lang publicly presented a secret order bearing the princess's seal, enraging the emperor, who immediately ordered a search of the princess's residence. Only forbidden books from the study of the Grand Princess's residence were found. They were the autobiography of Princess Changhua, a notorious figure from the previous dynasty who was accused of treason and labeled as a princess who brought calamity to the nation. Princess Changhua's consort held a high-ranking position and used it to harm the state. While she herself was no less ambitious, she murdered her imperial brother in an attempt to seize the throne. This incident led to the current dynasty's decree that princesses and their consorts could not hold positions above the third rank. The Grand Princess was currently enjoying her leisure at the imperial retreat, while the emperor, already furious, intended to order her arrest. However, the third prince interceded on her behalf. "Father, please calm your anger. The Grand Princess is not in the capital at present." This Wang Lang was once her subordinate, and his sudden accusation may well be a malicious fabrication. The emperor pondered this and initially found it somewhat reasonable. But then Wang Lang revealed a shocking royal secret that left the entire court astounded. The Grand Princess, in her plot to remain in the imperial palace and her residence to prepare for rebellion, actually murdered her own consort. This is attested by the chief stewardess who served her for many years. And there is physical evidence as well. The long-serving attendants of the princess came forward and, in just a few words, clearly recounted how the princess had murdered her consort. Presenting the physical evidence from that time, with the facts laid bare before him, even if the third prince wished to plead for leniency, he could no longer do so. The princess was immediately arrested and imprisoned, awaiting the emperor's judgment. Wang Lang also gained a good reputation, claiming that he had deliberately approached the princess to uncover her plot of rebellion, thus donning the lofty hat of righteousness and sweeping away his previous ill repute of currying favor with the powerful. When the news reached my ears, I couldn't help but laugh and laugh. Truly knows how to glorify himself. It was indeed he who discovered the Grand Princess's plot to rebel. I had previously thought her support for the third prince stemmed from an improper affection, never imagining she intended to exploit the fraternal conflict to seize the throne for herself. Yet this Wang Lang deliberately approached the Grand Princess, clearly for his own path to power, truly no different from his past life's conduct. Soon, the eldest princess was sentenced. The emperor decided to confine her to her fiefdom, never to return to the capital for the rest of her life. The punishment was originally meant to be even harsher, but the crown prince persistently pleaded for his aunt's mercy, ultimately persuading the emperor to spare her life. For this, the crown prince was reprimanded and punished by the emperor, yet, the emperor was secretly pleased to see the crown prince act in such a manner. The crown prince could even disregard reprimands to plead for his elder aunt, the Grand Princess. Such genuine affection was nothing less than filial piety. All previous grievances vanished in an instant, with the emperor causing no trouble and the crown prince steadily consolidating his position. After years of contention, the third prince's faction ultimately failed to gain momentum. As for the other three who had vied for the throne in the previous life, now that the crown prince had not met his former fate, they dared not show any ulterior motives. 5 years later, the emperor passed away, and the crown prince smoothly ascended the throne. After the crown prince's ascension, he systematically settled scores with the brothers who had once targeted him during his time as heir apparent. The third prince's fate went without saying. Xiao Hongguang and I left for Yangzhou. If nothing unexpected happens, the northern barbarians will invade from the south within these 2 years. In the previous life at this time, almost everyone in the Yang prince's residence had died, leaving only Xiao Hongguang, who still managed to repel the northern barbarians so thoroughly they dared not return. This time, no one from within will strike against the Yang prince's household. The battle went smoothly, and barring any surprises, it should ensure peace in the Yang region for 30 years. After the war, Xiao Hongguang returned exhausted and slept like the dead while holding me. When I woke at dusk, My daughter stood by the bed staring at me resentfully, giving me quite a fright. Shunga wants to sleep with mother. As soon as father returns, mother won't sleep with Shunga anymore. Sure, I covered her mouth. Your father is exhausted, don't disturb him. Mother will take you somewhere else to sleep. Shunga nodded like a little chick pecking at rice. I quickly took her to another room, lulled her to sleep, and then quietly returned. No sooner had I lain down in bed than the person beside me turned over and gripped my throat, his voice icy. Who are you? Staring into Xiao Hongguang's unfamiliar eyes, I cautiously grasped his hand and whispered, I am your wife, it's over. What's wrong with this world? Xiao Hongguang seems to have been reborn too. The end. Extra story. Xiao Hongguang, wife. Xiao Hongguang gazed warily at the woman pinned beneath him, his eyes filled with vigilance. He remembered when his blade had pierced the emperor's body, an archer's arrow had simultaneously embedded itself in his own chest. How had he come to be here? And how did he have a wife? Her pearly white neck caught in his vision, making Xiao Hongguang avert his eyes as his surroundings gradually came into focus. This is unmistakably the bedchamber of the Prince of Yang's residence in Yang territory. A bonelessly soft hand rested on his shoulder, the woman's scorching breath unsettling his mind with restless irritation. Zizhao, what's wrong with you? Are you still muddled from sleep? When Jiang Shihe asked this, there was still a glimmer of hope in her heart. I hope it's not really as she thought. Otherwise how would she explain these 2 lifetimes to Xiao Han? I truly don't know you. Xiao Han pressed his weight against her as he propped himself up, looking down with icy cold eyes. You'd better not scream. This woman actually knew his courtesy name. Who sent you? The emperor, or the eldest princess? This is bad. Jiang Shihe covered her eyes, feigning temporary confusion. My lord, there is no eldest princess now. 2 years ago, unable to endure imprisonment, she died in her fiefdom. What year is it now? Jiang Shihe told the truth and added, not long after the crown prince ascended the throne, we returned to Yang. You had just repelled the northern DI. Don't you remember? Did you hit your head on the battlefield? The crown prince ascended the throne. Xiao Hongguang finally realized belatedly, he had arrived in another world, a world where the crown prince hasn't died, the brothers haven't died, and the third prince and eldest princess's rebellion has failed, and yet, Xiao Hongguang's gaze fell upon Jiang Shihe. He also gained a wife. He looked, and there was something vaguely familiar about him. It seemed like they had met somewhere before. Suppressing his doubts, he said, it's nothing, my mind isn't quite clear. I remember now. Xiao Hongguang decided to sleep first and get up early the next morning to inquire further. Most importantly, no one must notice that he is from another world. As the princess's study companion, the royal guards were solely focused on covering the princess's escape, leaving me forgotten in place. Tease me. Jiang Shihe grabbed his collar and pulled him down. We haven't, for 2 months. Her lips tingled with a strange numbness. This woman had the audacity to kiss him, not just a brush of lips, but she even dared to slip her tongue inside. Xiao Hongguang had never been this intimate with a woman before. Flustered, he wanted to push her away harshly, but remembering she was his wife, he only gently pulled her down instead. I haven't slept enough yet. Xiao Hongguang lay with his back to her, sensing the woman's soft hand touching his earlobe. Zizhao, why are your ears so red? Shunna is already 3 years old. How can you still be so shy? Xiao Hongguang turned over. Shunna is. Jiang Shihe blinked. She's our daughter. A thunderous explosion seemed to ring in his ears as Xiao Hongguang was completely stunned. In this world, he actually already had a child. Jiang Shihe rubbed his fingers against Xiao Hongguang's face, observing his expression with evident amusement. He had thought the rest of his life would pass by uneventfully, never expecting Xiao Hongguang, with memories of their past life, would suddenly appear. Teasing him would be quite amusing.